And obviously you don't need an introduction, but you do need a disclaimer.
I like that.
Andrew Tate is a name virtually everyone has heard of. A 4-time world kickboxing champion, self-made multimillionaire entrepreneur, internet phenomenon with billions of views, and one of the most polarizing voices of our time.
This is all women's fault. Women did this. A girl boss is not someone running around saying, I hate men, I don't need men. And all those women who say, I don't need men are fucking liars, because you do need men.
You're raising men, you're raising boys, you're marrying husbands.
That's right.
What are you doing demonizing them?
But fame comes with a cost, and for Tate, that's meant global scrutiny, criminal charges, and months behind bars.
This podcast will be watched by government agencies. They will watch this. They will analyze with a psychiatrist. Me, you, the entire world is a battle for influence. And if you're influential, they need to get you under somebody.
What makes a man more enslaved? The guy that's living paycheck to paycheck in the rat race, or someone that has money and power but stays silent on big topics that matter?
You ask me very good questions that I have to genuinely think about.
Are you afraid of anything?
Yes, I am afraid of.
Andrew, welcome to the What They Don't Tell Us podcast.
What They Don't Tell Us.
That's what it's called.
That's a good name, What They Don't Tell Us. Am I here to tell everybody
what we don't know?
What they don't know?
Basically, this is what it's about.
Back to jail then. Back to jail. I need to pack a bag.
Maybe after 3 hours, we'll find out.
We'll see.
But let's start off with something. Firstly, I mean, obviously you don't need an introduction, but you do need a disclaimer.
I like that. I don't need an introduction, but I do need a disclaimer.
I think you should walk around with a disclaimer everywhere you go, because you're either misinterpreted or misunderstood, and walking around with a disclaimer could help you a lot.
I would argue I am one of the most misunderstood men in the world.
Yeah.
But then it's interesting because I have never had a negative interaction with anybody in person in my life ever. So it seems all the people like me, but the Matrix and the mainstream media and the mainstream narrative is trying very hard to convince everybody I'm bad. So I don't know if I'm actually misunderstood or if people do understand me. I'm sure in private conversations, there's obviously someone who's going to pipe up and say, Andrew's bad, or Andrew said this, or Andrew said that. But I like to believe, by and large, I'm quite understood and quite liked. In my experience of life, I'm liked. I only go through the world and nobody says anything bad to me. Everybody likes me. So yeah, maybe I should wear a disclaimer. If you have a brain, you like me. And if you don't, you don't. I mean, I guess that's the disclaimer at this point, but.
Yeah. I mean, when I was, studying you literally for this podcast, I was literally, because I'm the kind of person that reads between the lines. When someone says something obnoxious or weird or out of the box, my immediate reaction is not, no, I disagree. What the hell is that? I always say like, why would he say that? That's so interesting. Let me see.
Yeah.
And then I listen a little bit further. And I like my podcast to also have that angle, because I do speak about very bold things on this podcast. And I'd like for people to understand that, read between the lines. You don't need to take things at face value, because face value could be many things. And that one thing that I actually wanted to jump into is why people assume that. So before I go back to what I wanted to say, let's just jump straight into that, since we're talking about it. Have you read the book 48 Laws of Power?
No.
No.
However, I do know the book, and I have seen there's a Twitter account and people tweet them all the time. I probably should have read the book, but I'm petty.
Yeah.
Right? So when I see some skinny little dork who I could strangle to death tweeting about the 48 Laws of Power, I just think I'm not reading this book. So that's how my mind works. That's why I haven't read it.
Can I tell you why it came to mind?
Sure.
Okay, because they talk about the strategic self-presentation, and that reminded me so much of you. I'm going to read a quick passage from the book just so you maybe you can reference yourself.
I didn't need to read. It's perfect.
Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. Never let yourself get lost in the crowd or buried in oblivion. Stand out. Be conspicuous at all costs. Make yourself a magnet of attention by appearing larger, more colorful, more mysterious than the bland and timid masses. Draw attention to yourself by creating an unforgettable, even controversial image. Court scandal. Do anything to make yourself seem larger than life and shine more brightly than those around you. Make no distinction between kinds of attention. Notoriety of any sort will bring you power. Better to be slandered and attacked than ignored. Is that you?
That's the first time I've ever heard that, but it put a smile on my face. What's funny is, I completely agree with the latter point. There's no such thing as bad publicity. That's absolutely a fact. My brother and I walk around now like the Gambino crime family. We didn't have to kill anybody. It's kind of cool. So that's true. Although if you read that passage, or anyone who reads that book, it sounds like quite an easy thing to do, right? You'd say, okay, well, why don't you just stand out? If you just stand out, then you get to garnish power and you get to not be caught amongst a herd of the bland NPCs. So why don't people do it? And
it's more than stand out. It's have an image. Always have a persona.
Yeah, but to court attention in and of itself is, one, getting harder and harder to do, I would argue. And two, there's huge repercussion for doing that, because anyone whose head sticks up gets chopped off. And the reason a lot of people don't do that passage which you read out, it sounds to me, when I hear it, when I analyze it, I say, okay, you're talking about the different ways to obtain power. Making money is difficult. Becoming strong is difficult. Having mental fortitude is difficult. But just stand out and be unique, that's pretty easy. I can put on a shirt and I can run around and, put on a hat. But the reason you can't actually do these things in any significant way is because the system as a whole is going to chop off the head of anybody who stands up and has genuine influence over the population.
But do you think you're misunderstood because you peacock? Because you stand out?
I don't think many people misunderstand me. I think everybody understands me, and some people are just jealous of me and refuse to like me because they were picked on in school, and I remind them of someone who probably picked on them a little bit.
Do you think it's women or men?
It's a good question. It's really interesting. I mean, I don't want to come across as too arrogant. I know that's a funny thing for me to say, but if I had to genuinely analyze the people who like me and don't like me, it's men who were picked on in school. I mean, I'll be honest. If I was 5'5", I wouldn't be hated. It's literally, he's big and he's rich and he has all these cars. The BBC said it to me. You walk around with your Bugatti and your cigar and it's misogynistic. I'm like, what does that even mean? It means that I'm 6'3" and I have a whole bunch of money and a bunch of nice cars, and they just don't. My image as a whole aggravates them. I don't have to talk. So that's part of it. And then from women, do women dislike me? I don't know. I'm sure there's some troll somewhere.
So I'll tell you from my perspective what I think. I think a lot of men love you. A lot of men respect you, or they find you hilarious. You kind of play on the fantasy of what a man could have, right? Even when you're doing it in an obnoxious way, showing your money and your cars and your fame. And I think men love it. I mean, I even find my husband like scrolling and laughing when you're posting stuff. He actually loves it. And even when you say bold statements that are maybe shocking or crass, I think a lot of men agree with you, but they're just worried to say it themselves.
Well, this is what's interesting, because you used a very important word there. You said obnoxious. Being obnoxious with your opinion, and I'm not saying obnoxious with your personality. You can't be societally retarded. But to be obnoxious with an opinion in general is a masculine trait. To sit and say, I've said it this way and that offends you, but I said it this way anyway because I'm not afraid of what you're going to do about what I've said. That's the masculine imperative in the first place. To sit and say, I'm going to talk this way and all 20 of them will get mad, but I can fight all 20 of them, so I don't care. That's the masculine imperative. So a lot of people, men understand it and go, yeah, he pissed everyone off with the way he said it. But that's actually a masculine way to do it. It's very feminine to sit and go, well, I don't want to make you mad, but I think that maybe there could be.
Yeah.
And that's how they're trying to neuter men in general across the entire Western Hemisphere. But they want us to talk and think and act that way. And I refuse to do it, which is why they hate me so much. But I think a lot of men understand that when I'm saying things the way I'm saying them, especially if I'm triggering somebody, that I'm doing it to trigger them. I mean, it does make it a little bit more entertaining to do. That is true. I am a troll to a degree. It is true. But it doesn't mean I don't mean what I say.
Yeah.
It means I say it in a particular way.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that, I think you're very intelligent, and I think that you know what you're doing when you're saying something in a bold, obnoxious, or headline news kind of way.
Yep.
And I think that is a major reason why you built a giant following. But now that you have your soldiers, okay, now that you have the platform and the following, do you still feel the need to say things the way you say them?
Well, that's what I think, and that's how I think them.
How you think them, or is it, because you would say a really bold statement instead of saying it in a way that I think everybody agrees with. I mean, many things that I was coming across, I'm like, no, he's right. He's right. And he's right about that too. But would I choose your words? Probably not. Probably
not. I agree with you. But that is genuinely how I think of them a lot of the time. That's what comes to my head. And it's now at a point where, do I want to filter in any way? And I believe the primary objective of the attacks against me is simply to try and blunten my edge. That's what they want to do. They didn't want to put me, well, they wanted to put me in jail. They knew they probably wouldn't be able to. They want me to say sorry. They want me to bend. They want me to break. Because everybody else who was a cultural force in some degree in the modern times has bent or broken. I mean, you look at Peterson, he ended up a drug addict and he lost his brand and all these things are happening. If I would have just stood up and cried and said, I'm sorry from the Romanian prison, all of this would have been over. That's all they want me to do is destroy my own brand. They want me to calm down and shut up and sit down. And, I get so much satisfaction from being annoying to my enemies that I refuse. I'm as stubborn as they come. And I'm going to talk the way I want to talk. And I'm going to say the things I think the way I think them. And I guess it is a side effect of success, because we talked about how saying things obnoxiously is masculine. It's actually a sign of success where people talk about you money, but you can have a you personality and a you attitude. I don't need anybody to really like me, and I don't need anybody to talk to me, and I don't need to talk to anybody. So I have this, I'm very open and honest about the way I think about things, and I say them exactly how I think them. And sometimes if they aggravate or antagonize people, I enjoy that because it allows me to read their emotional leakage or get a read on them as an individual. If I meet somebody and I sit down and I say something and they lose their mind, well, then I know they're an idiot. Like this is the first time you've ever met me. How can my words control your emotionality to the point where you're now genuinely upset? You're an idiot. If I sat down with somebody and they said something racist to me or something horrible to me, or they said I was a human trafficker, I couldn't care less. It doesn't matter to me because I don't see their opinion as important. But when I sit down with people and I say something which is not only true, usually hilarious, and people lose their mind, well, then I just know they're clowns. Because that is the primary objective of the Matrix in the first place, is to elicit emotional leakage and emotional attention from people who have no vested interest in the subject at all. I mean, they can get people emotionally riled up over subjects they don't even understand or know. This happened recently with the Houthis. It was funny. Before Trump started bombing the Houthis, I noticed the news was talking about the Houthis all the time. We have to get the Houthis, the Houthis, the Houthis. And everyone's walking around going, yeah, we have to get the Houthis. I'm like, you didn't even know who the Houthis were 3 days ago. You didn't even know where Yemen is. But they could just make you dislike these people so they can murder them en masse. How do they do that? Because they can emotionally affect you. I can't be emotionally affected. So why do I talk the way I talk? Well, if I walk in a room and I say something and 7 people end up emotionally affected, well, then I know they're dipshits. I'm trying very hard at my stage in life to avoid dipshits. So I don't really see any of the negative from speaking the way I speak, because I don't really need to be liked. I wouldn't be this way in corporate because I couldn't, but I don't need to be in corporate. So I'm okay, So I guess it's just a life decision I've made. We talk about, I don't want to swear in front of a woman, but F you money. It's an F you personality. This is what I think. This is how I say it. If you don't like it and you don't talk to me, you lose. I don't lose anything. You lose. So I guess that's how I go around, and that's how I speak.
So you talk about the Matrix. I know what you mean by that, but just for the sake of my audience, let's walk them through that. What is the Matrix, and what do you teach young men?
Yeah, so society as a whole, and although the Matrix is evil, in many ways it is necessary, but society as a whole has to be controlled and constrained. And we have all these different people with all these different ideas, many of different races and religions, different upbringings, different versions of history. And we're all living in very close proximity to one another. And this is a relatively new thing, right? We were in clans where we understood each other completely because we were familiar, or we had the same version of history, the same stories we were raised on. Even in the 80s and 90s, even when I went to school, I'm an old man now, but when I went to school, everyone talked about the TV show the night before. Everyone watched the same TV show that day. All the kids did. At the same time.
Same show.
That's right.
I was part of that.
That's right. But now there's Netflix and the internet. I'm sure none of that exists anymore. So we're not bound together by anything.
Right.
So the Matrix is a false version of reality, which they're constantly purporting into the population, trying to keep everything together, trying to keep all of these different people with all these different ideas functioning as a cohesive society. And different countries attempt it in different ways. But effectively in the West, what they've decided to do is just endlessly lie to us. And the version of reality and the version of history, especially, that we've been told is a lie. The institutions that we're told to believe in are corrupt. The education system is corrupt. The medical system is corrupt. The judicial system is corrupt. You name a system, it's corrupted. All of them are. And we're told
democracy is a scam as well.
Democracy is corrupt. The electoral system's definitely corrupt. So we're told that. Yeah, we're told go to school, work hard, get a degree, you'll get a job, you'll end up rich, save for your 401k, don't worry about your pension, you're going to own your home one day, vote for your candidate, it really matters, and you're going to be a happy citizen. And it turns out every single part of that is a lie. And that is the Matrix. And the reason I call it that is because of the movie. In the movie, that Neo is living in a false version of reality, which is very separate and different than the real reality, just to keep him placated so that his body heat can be harnessed by the machines. And that's effectively what the governments of the West are trying to do now. They want you to pay taxes. You need to work, and they want to keep your mind distracted and placated enough for you to continue to pay taxes, even though your cost of living keeps going up, your living standard keeps going down, crime keeps going up, you can't let your kids play outside, you're miserable, the traffic and the commute is getting worse day by day, your life is degrading in real time, your only chance to get out of it is to get rich, you can't, and you're stuck. So they have to broadcast enough garbage into your brain that you get distracted by TikTok and being stupid enough to pay $700 to go watch Taylor Swift standing up and down. This is the thing, though. It's true. That is the Matrix. You want to ask me? Let me answer the question. What's the Matrix? A concert is the Matrix. Look at these people screaming, jumping up and down, looking at an artist they've already heard the song from 50,000 times, idolizing this person like they're Jesus. And they can't even pay their own bills. That's the Matrix in a nutshell. Those are the people who have been completely psyoped by the slave mind. You are allowing yourself to be distracted with bread and circus garbage as your actual life and the things that matter crumble around you.
Is it dangerous for both men and women alike? And how do people, like you say this, and then they're going to be like, how do I get out of it?
Well, first you have to be aware of it. That's the first thing. And the second thing is not everybody can escape. And when I said earlier about the Matrix, how it is evil, but it is necessary, if everybody understood what's going on, then there'd be a new version of society. And would that new version of society be better? I don't know, because it'd be very chaotic. You'd have to find something else, something new to bind everybody. Perhaps we could come up with something which was more based on integrity and truth. That's a good idea, but ideas and application are not often the same. So when I speak and I say these things, I think 1 in every 10,000 people understand me. And I hope the other 9,999 don't understand me, to be honest with you. Because for there to be winners, there has to be losers. I like that the Matrix exists as long as I'm not in it. I want to be outside of it. You know, it's fine. I like that they inflate the currency because I own a bunch of real estate. It's fine to me. I win. But if you want to win, you got to escape it. And I think the way to do that is different for men and women, to be honest. I can only talk from the masculine perspective because the masculine perspective is the only one I know because I'm a man. But in the world today as a man, and this kind of ties back into what you were saying earlier about standing out from the crowd, it is far more difficult to achieve a genuinely unique status than it's ever been, because money alone doesn't work anymore. We live in Dubai. Who doesn't have a Lambo? Who cares? Who doesn't have money? Who cares? Right? So you can't just have money. You need to have money and charisma and intellect and wisdom. And you need to be smart. You need to be brave.
And physically fit.
And physically fit, in good shape. You have to add all these things together. And then you need status. You need clout. You need to add all of this up. And it's getting harder and harder for men to break through to that 1%. And the true answer to all of these things is you need to be prepared to take risks and suffer the pain of failing, because you're not going to win every single time.
You think it's easy to win with the quality of people competing against each other now?
It was easy for me. I think it is easy for winners to win. Yeah, that's true. I think it's easy to make money. But in the world today, I see a lot of people who make money and think that's enough. They still think it's the 1995 or something where you could have money and that you're somehow somebody.
Do you think it matters how you make the money?
It's a really good question. I'm going to answer that by talking about my own personal story where I'd made money in a you could argue, morally, you could say it was wrong. I mean, illegal, no. Moral, again, you could argue back and forth about it, but I'm not going to do that. But I would say that there is a karmic retribution in the universe. And if you take dirty money, you're going to pay the price for it one way or another. I think if you scam somebody, you pay the price for that. I think if you rug pull crypto coins, you pay the price for that. I like to believe the universe is fairly balanced. And I like to believe that everybody gets what they deserve, both the good and the bad. And I like to believe that I deserve all of the amazing things I have, and I deserve all of the bad things that happen to me. And that's probably me optimizing my mind for competency and the capability to deal with things. Because if something bad happens to me and I believe I deserve it, it's much easier than going, oh, poor me. I don't have a victim mindset. So when bad things happen to me, I'm like, okay, well, I didn't realize that I cut someone off in traffic 3 weeks ago. And that delay caused them to miss the birth of their child. So I deserve this.
You deserve to be in Romania.
I deserve to be in Romanian jail. You know, that's just how I optimize my mindset. So I never feel sorry for myself. And I think the reason I do that is because that allows me to handle things easier. But the reason now in the current position I'm in, where I could easily I mean, I could rake in $300 million in a week if I want to scam people. I won't do it because I believe that you'll pay the price for that. And I'm not talking about pay the price legally. I'm talking about paying the price cosmically, universally. I think things all balance out in the end. So by extension, to answer the earlier question about is it easy to win, I think that every single person watching this has exactly what they deserve. I think everything good in your life, you deserve it. Everything bad in your life, you deserve it. If you're important and famous, you deserve that. If you don't deserve it. You have exactly what you deserve. Where you are and who you are is what you should be. And if you wanted to be something else, you would be something else.
So do you feel like all the false allegations, which all came out to be false against you, was that your fault, or was it the media trying to get you down? The way the world has functions right now on bad press, bad media, your reputation is more detrimental right now than an actual crime. People want to get you for your reputation and not for a crime.
Correct.
So is that still your fault?
Well, yeah. Was it fair? No. Was it my fault? Yes.
What would you take responsibility for?
Because everything is my fault. This is how I approach the world. If this building collapses, it's my fault.
How so?
Because as I walked into the building, I should have used my unmatched perspicacity and Aikido ninja mind to detect the crack in the foundations. Instead, I failed. I wasn't paying enough attention. I was looking at my phone, texting somebody, and now look, I died. My fault. I take responsibility for absolutely everything in my life. What they did to me was unfair, yes. But is it my fault? Well, I did attack the Matrix. I did go to war in a battle of influence against the most powerful governmental systems on the planet. I did say things which could have been taken out of context. I did hang around with hundreds of women. I did brag and be brash and run around in my Lambo with 3 girls in the passenger seat. I did all of this. Is it fair how they spun it and attacked me with it? No. But I don't think as a full-grown man, I can sit here and say it's not my fault. I still did certain things.
Do you think that
if someone runs up to me on the street and stabs me to death, is that fair? No. Do I deserve it? No. But is it my fault? Yes. I should have seen him coming. I should have heard him coming. I should have had security. I should have known he was after me because we argued the day before. Everything is my fault. So fault and fair in the amateur mind are conflated. In my mind, they're very different things. It's unfair what they did to me. Yes, they lied about me. Yes, I'm innocent. Yes, it was a setup, but it's my fault.
Do you think that applies to women as well? They need to take the responsibility for whatever happens to them.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble, but
because with that logic, with that logic, and I see the point because I believe everything is my fault as well.
Yeah.
But with that logic, then if a woman is wearing a short skirt and a bra and walks on the street,
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
And then she gets whistled at, she gets, God forbid, raped or hit on or whatever. Is that her fault?
Yes. Now, in true misogynistic style, I'm going to have to say that women, by and large, and obviously exceptions do disprove the rule, struggle with personal accountability more than men, by and large. Correct. And I'm not saying all women. I'm just saying.
But I mean, there's an exception to all rules, right? But we're talking here generally speaking.
Yeah. Yes. And the reason for that is because when you blame yourself for things, you become competitive. And the world for a man is actually more competitive than the world for a woman. And women, to a degree, not all women, but some women manage to get by not being particularly competitive. They're just pretty or they know enough people. And they just go through life not really blaming themselves for anything because they don't have to optimize in any way. But if you want to optimize yourself, you always have to take fault for everything all of the time. I said something before about that the BBC still use against me to this day. I said that exactly what you said. I said if a woman goes out and she meets a man she doesn't know, and she's wearing a short skirt, and she gets drunk with that man, and then she sniffs cocaine with that man, and then she kisses that man in the bar, and then she goes back to that man's hotel room, and then cries rape, I blame the woman. And they said, in the BBC, Andrew Tate says women are responsible for rape, because they twist everything. And what I'm trying to say is that we need to have personal accountability in all things, because the world's not a perfect place, right? Am I saying she should be raped if she ends up in that hotel room? No. What I am saying is that the world's not a perfect place and people do bad things. And her, as an adult, should have enough personal responsibility to not put herself in a position where it's easy to allow bad things to happen to her. Just as I, as a man, don't allow myself to be in a position where bad things can happen to me. I won't go to Kandahar right now and get shot with an AK because I know that there's people there who might kill me. We all have to have personal responsibility, but the world is now skewed. And we live in this very unfair dichotomy of this double standard, which is applied to men in this matriarchal matrix system where women are girl bosses and better than us at everything and beat us up on Netflix shows, while at the same time, anything that happens to them wasn't their fault. A man made them do it. And we have these two things sandwiched together. And as a man, you're stuck in the middle. Imagine you're a 17-year-old boy, you're going to school, you're watching Netflix, you're watching TV, you're watching these things. They're telling you women are better than you at everything. They're trying to make you into a girl. They're trying to make you talk like a girl, think like a girl, be a girl. You turn on Netflix, the mom is smart, the dad is dumb. There's a little woman beating up 55 men on every single TV show. Your masculinity is permanently under attack. But then you get a girlfriend and you're with her for a few months, then you break up, and then she cheated on you, but that's your fault because you could emotionally manipulate, or you were a narcissist. So everything she does is your fault, but you have no authority, but you have all the responsibility, but you're also her inferior while capable of making her do things she doesn't want to do. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
I think this double standard as well of how they're raising women and men these days to believe that women are taking the place of men and there are no men and you should emasculate yourself a little bit so that there is equality, right? But then when men and women are dating and they're in relationships, all of a sudden a woman is going back to her instinct and she's like, but why aren't you leading? And why aren't you providing? And why aren't you, leading the household? And you're like, okay, but I thought that's not, like, did you not want this? I mean, I'm so confused because mainstream media is saying that it's offensive now to tell a woman that I've got you, right?
Exactly right. And that's why the birth rate's collapsing. That's why marriage is collapsing. That's why everything's over. You know, I recently watched this. I witnessed this recently. We're talking about how, and we can actually talk about this from a biological perspective, because we talk about how women don't want to take accountability for things. But one of the reasons they get away with that is because men, by and large, as a society, allow women to get away with these things.
Yeah.
Because we are programmed to protect women. Because if you have 100 men and 100 women and a war comes, the reason the men go fight, because supposedly the patriarchy was so evil and mean. If you listen to a feminist, history is patriarchal. The patriarchy is disgusting. Turns out it was men who were dying in a ditch, getting shot while you sat at home with the kids. But no, we were supposedly bad. Why do we send the men to go fight? Because if it was truly a patriarchy, we could sit around and say, I'll send my women against your women. Baby mama battle. I'll send my chicks. You send your chicks, they can fight. I'm going to sit here. I'm a king. I don't have to go fight and die. Why? Because if you have 100 men, 100 women, and 95 men die, well, those 5 men can still impregnate the 100 women. Your tribe will survive. If 95 women die with 100 men, your tribe's over because you can't reproduce fast enough. So men have been programmed evolutionarily across thousands of years to protect women by and large. And you see this all the time. And that has been hijacked now to the point where women, when they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions, have men jump up and jump around them to defend them. This happens all the time. A porn star will come out after doing 500 porn scenes and say, I was fooled and tricked. My mom was a drug addict and it was unfortunate. And then this manager met me and he seduced me. And now I'm suing him because I didn't want to. That's what she's going to say. And whether that's true or not, you could debate. But what's interesting is thousands of men will start going, yeah, poor girl. Instantly defending her. They don't even know if what she said is true. She could have come from a white picket fence Christian household. She just made it up.
With Me Too movement, women don't lie
Defend
anymore.
all women. Women don't lie. And I saw this very recently with Lily Phillips. I see Lily Phillips going on these podcasts and you have all these conservatives, these Republicans, these masculine men trying to convince her that, what's happening to her is wrong and she needs to look at her childhood and work out why she did it, etc. To me personally, I just think she's a whore, and whores have always existed, and she can go be a whore, and it's her decision, and that's what she's doing, and I don't feel any instinct to protect her. Now, maybe I'm the broken one, but I see a bunch of dudes trying to stick up and protect her. She's making her own decisions. You want to talk about personal accountability? There it is. Let her do it. Let her suffer the consequences. Who cares?
But that's how it's always been. I mean, at least how I was growing up. If we're teenagers, I mean, I'm born 86, I'm 38 now, and as teenagers, and you're making bad decisions over and over again, 18, 19, 20, at some point, no decent boy wants to date you.
100%.
And it's your personal accountability. And that's as a teenager. Now that we know better, we say, okay, but that's a teenager's mind. Maybe she doesn't know. But when you're a fully grown woman and you're choosing your choices, why are people trying to protect how she feels about the choices she's making as opposed to making her hold herself accountable for those choices.
What's really interesting is this. If we're going to live in a society where women are not accountable for their own decisions, why can they vote? Exactly. Why can they be in charge of governments? Why do we listen to anything they say ever? I'm not trying to be a misogynist because this is why they call me a misogynist. I'm asking questions. If we live in a society where women are not responsible for their own actions, which means by extension, they're not responsible for any of the actions which take place because of their ideals that they promote. If a woman wants to sit there and say, we need transsexuals in school, drag story, child book reading, we need this because it makes me feel good. But I'm not responsible for what happens to those children. I'm not responsible, and I'm not going to take accountability for how bad an idea this was. I just want it so I can say I'm a good person. My question is this. Until women are prepared to take accountability the same way men are, why do we listen to anything they even say? And this is why I'm called a misogynist, and this is why I say things that upset the matrix, and this is why I get in so much trouble.
And I just think they misquote you. Like what you say, if someone just takes that sentence and doesn't listen to everything you're saying, they're going to say,
why do we listen to what women say? And they're going to put it up there.
That's how it works, right?
But I don't listen to what men say who don't take accountability either.
Absolutely.
The thing is, the matrix, they gender most of my arguments and they say I'm talking about women. I'm not only talking about women because exceptions do disprove the rule, but we have to talk about generalities. In general, men take more accountability than women because in general, men have to be more competitive than women. But there's plenty of men who don't take accountability either. There's plenty of them.
Absolutely.
And I don't talk to them either. And that's one of the reasons why, I judge people on their appearances all the time. I judge books by their cover all day, every day. If I look at you and I feel like you're weak, I don't believe you have personal responsibility. I don't believe you have motivation. I don't believe you have dedication. I don't believe you can keep donuts out your mouth. I don't believe you have any self-control. I don't talk to you. I don't like you. Call me fatphobic. I don't care. That's my decision. I'm rich. I don't need you. So I don't talk to you. Because I believe you're the kind of person who will not take accountability for their actions. Because you're eating donuts all day, you're becoming obese, and you're blaming your fucking thyroid. So you're a dumbass. So I don't need you near me or around me because you're not responsible for your actions. If I lend you my car and you crash it, you're not going to come to me like a man would do. A man who's accountable. If I crash a car, which is impossible, by the way. But if that happened...
Because you're not a woman.
You said it. You said it. But if I crash a car... I'll go up to the guy. If I borrow a car and crash it, I'll go up to him and say, brother, I crashed your car, completely my fault. I'll pay for all the repairs or I'll buy you a new one, 100% on me. I got your back. That's what a man would do.
Yeah.
But what a weakling would do, or someone who doesn't take accountability, is they say, I crashed the car, but it wasn't my fault. What happened? Well, this guy, he just pulled out of nowhere and he just came and then the tree just grew out of nowhere and was just in the middle of the road and I hit the tree. So... by and large, and of course, exceptions don't disprove the rule. By and large, this is a test for everybody at home. Ask a man if he's ever crashed a car, and he'll say yes or no. And if he says yes, he'll say why. And he'll probably say, oh, I was drunk or I wasn't paying attention. He'll blame himself. Ask a woman, have you ever crashed a car? Yeah, I've crashed. What happened? Oh, it wasn't my fault. Every time it's not their fault somehow. Somehow the tree just grew in the middle of the road.
I've been there.
Well, this is the thing that's interesting. So in the West, if they have an idea that they want to psyop the population with, they aim for children and women first. They don't aim for the men. We're hard to convince. Men are hard to convince. They aim for the women and the children.
That's welfare.
Well, that's welfare. That was COVID. COVID was simply grandma's going to die. And that makes women go, grandma, because women are emotional. You can manipulate emotions. Men, we're not as emotional. You have to come to us with facts. And I'm like, okay, well, how many grandmas? Whose grandma? Not my grandma. She's built different. I don't care.
That's what they did with the October 7th. The first thing that came out was beheaded babies.
Of course, a lie.
To
psyop.
Trigger women.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So in the matriarchy of the West that we live in, we're living in this matriarchal society where the people who have the most power, because women are more powerful than men in the West, they pretend that they're living in a patriarchy because men make more money and all this bullshit. There is not a single law in the Western world that benefits men over women. And I can name endless laws that benefit women over men. A woman can destroy a man's life at random with a single accusation and no proof. She can take his house he worked for. She can take his children. She can take his money. The richest women in the West, the top 10 of them, got it all via divorce. Men get wrecked by chicks. Chicks run it. It's female world. And I'm saying that they've done this on purpose so they can come along with emotional arguments. Because emotional arguments are a very easy way to psyop people. We need to remove the border. We're going to let in as many people as we want. Here, look, there's a kid. Look at the kid. He's crying. Oh. Well, my answer is, does he have a passport? Because if no, he can't come in. He should go cry at the passport office in Mexico. I don't give a shit. Whereas a chick will be like, oh, the kid. Emotional arguments.
Women are emotional. Women do act on impulse more than men.
But also, and I have to say this caveat because this is true. That's your beauty.
But I don't see it. I mean, if a guy tells me you're emotional, I'm like, yeah,
exactly,
correct.
That's the superpower.
Why would that offend me? It's absolutely true.
That's the superpower, and this is the thing that's so misunderstood. When I say these things, they think I want women to act like men. No, I don't.
But I think we have our own powers in our own way. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I know how to hold my household together. I know how to take care of my husband. I know how to get shit done in my house.
100%.
I do all of those things very comfortably, better than my husband, but because I'm a woman and I will take pride in that.
Yep.
But I don't want to step into his terrain of the things that he's good at as a man and try to take custody of that as well.
Well, then you've nailed it. This is exactly right. We're very separate. We have different power structures, different capabilities. Women can do some things better than men. Men can do some things better than women. The problem with Western society as a whole is that those jobs have been inversed. So I'm not saying I want all women to think and act like men. Women are just as powerful as men. We just have very different, distinct roles. You can't argue that a boat is more important than a plane. It depends. Well, you don't want a plane on the ocean, and you don't want a boat in the sky. So we do very different things.
But I think a lot of women are comfortable with all of that in my position when they have their shit together. This is my opinion. Because I have purpose, because I have drive, because I want to grow and build things in this world, and I'm very comfortable to be very soft in my feminine energy. I'm always cooking for my husband. I don't even let him order without coming to me first because I want to take care of him. I want him to be, happy when he's with the boys playing cards. I'm always serving everybody. I love doing that gladly. And the boys are always like, oh my God, Tracy's always like all over her husband. I love it. And I think it's because I've worked on myself a lot and I know my purpose in life. Now, it doesn't say that women that choose not to do what I'm doing and just want to stay at home cannot feel the same way. But I feel a lot of the people that have this modern feminist mentality are speaking from a place of insecurity because they're lost. They don't have control over their lives. They don't have control over their finances. They haven't met a guy that could help them out or have a leader in the family, and they don't know how to take care of themselves when they're single. So they go for the easy way to make cash, the ways that are probably not, the OnlyFans, for example. Most feminists that are screaming at the top of their lungs are making money in the West on OnlyFans, and they call that feminism. They call that freedom and an empowerment.
Well, I understand it. And the world is a very difficult place for young men, and it's a very confusing place for young women. For young men, it's difficult because when I was 16, 17, Dubai didn't exist, but I didn't know where Monaco was. I didn't see Instagram reels of Monaco. I'd never seen a Lamborghini in my life. The women I was talking to in school had never seen one either. Like if you're an 18, 19-year-old kid today, the girl in your college who you like, who's 18, 19, she has millionaires blowing up her phone, trying to fly her all around the world. You're just a Joe average brokey. So it's very difficult to be a young man. I don't think it's confusing. Young men know what they need. They need power and status and influence and money, and they're being constantly exposed to this whole world that they want to get access to that I was fortunate enough to not see. But that's why it's difficult to be a young man. To be a young woman, I wouldn't say it's difficult. I'd actually say it's easy but confusing because they have all these options now. They're 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever. They can be born in the middle of nowhere. They can be in Transnistria, a breakaway micronation. It doesn't matter. If they're hot and they have Instagram, they're getting invites. So as long as they can go cry at the passport office, they now get access to the highest tier of life that exists on the planet. If you're a man and you want to get on a boat, you have to work. If you're a woman, you want to get
for that boat.
You have to buy a boat. If you're a woman and want to get on a boat, you need an Instagram picture. So life can be easy for women materially at the cost of their soul, and it's very, very confusing for a woman because what do you do as an 18 or 19-year-old girl? Society used to have an easy laid out path for people. A woman would meet a man, they'd fall in love to some degree, they would have children, they would be married, she would become a mother. By the time she's 22, 23, that was what women did. And then for whatever reason, feminism came along and women decided that the patriarchy is terrible and they didn't want to listen to their husbands and they wanted to be set free to make their own decisions, for better or for worse. We gave it to them, and now they've been set free. So what do 18 and 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds do now? They run around talking to dudes on Instagram, trying to get Birkin bags and Instagram likes. And they can only do that by hyper promoting their sexuality, as you just described, so they can get as much attention as possible, because the laws of power, 48 laws of power, as you described, you have to try and garner attention, whether it's negative or positive. I'm one of the most Googled men in the world, and I said Lily Phillips' name. Why? Because you go. That's the bottom line of it. It's truth. So women are just using their sexuality now to try and get as much attention as possible. They're being thrown out into a dating market with the most desirable men on the planet. They end up having to share a man who can get any girl he wants, because they only want a man of a certain status, and all women want him. So there's 1,000 women per one man. They're running from dude to dude, relationship to relationship, getting their heart broken over and over and over again, until they eventually realize they have to settle down to some degree. Then they end up upset that they can't settle down with the kind of guy they were with 10 years ago. Mm. They get into some resentful relationship to eventually have children or offspring or whatever it is. Like, everything is completely broken now. And it's broken because women said, we didn't want to listen to men anymore. We don't want to the patriarchy. We don't want to have to obey our husbands. What's interesting as a thought experiment, and I don't know, women will have to answer this, but if I were to analyze it logically, I would say, every time I see a woman complaining that men aren't loyal, let's say, for example, I say, you did this. Men were loyal when they had to be. A man met a woman. You were in high school. We had to get married to have kids because society expected us to get married to you. So we had to, and we had to take care of you. You're complaining that you need help. We had to give you a house. We had to work. We had to raise the kids. We had to be loyal to you. We had to be home every day. We had to take you to church on Sundays. We had to. Then you said you don't like listening to us because we expected you to cook dinner. You didn't want to cook dinner and you want liberation. So now what are you doing? Now you're running around chasing men who have all of the options on the planet. And you're wondering why he's not loyal to you. Well, you want him to sit down with only you. How many beautiful women in the world are blowing up his phone? He's the guy with the yacht. There's lots of space on the boat.
You know how I see it, though? So tell me what you think about this. You get married. I know you're not married, but let's say you do get married. And I don't know the type of woman that you would marry, but assuming she's the kind of woman that is intelligent, she works, she has her own ambitions, but she's obviously available to take care of you and the house and everything, right? Do you ever feel, firstly, that you can be, I mean, does a woman inspire you ever? Does your wife help push you? I mean, again, it's subjective and it's different because you're in a place where you've already made it, right? But assume you're in this situation for other men out there. Is it normal for you that your woman inspires you to be better, that you would always bounce ideas off of her, build with her, grow with her? Or do you not believe that that's the woman's job in your life?
I think a woman would inspire me to be better so that I could provide for her and protect for her better. I think that me personally, I get all of my happiness via proxy. So my woman inspires me to be better because I can make her happier. And I'm only happy if she is happy. I'm only happy if my children are happy. I'm only happy if everyone around me is happy. I don't get happy by myself. I exist via proxy happiness. So I think to a degree she would inspire me. Yes, that's true. And I'm not saying that people don't get married anymore. I'm not saying any of these things. What I'm saying is that women in their years where they would have had a very clear purpose, where they're at the height of their reproductive years, for example, they're at the height of their hormones. Their clear purpose would be love my husband, have children. And now they don't have that. They just have social media, distractions, endless offers, money, gold digging, OnlyFans, dating left, right, and center, Taylor Swift, bullshit on the news, all of these hormones inside of them. They're told they're a boss, but they also don't want to work, but they also should work, but they also should have all this money just because they exist. And then they know this other girl who has all this money because she's dating 6 or 7 different men, and they're just running around sleeping with everybody. And my question is that better for society than a woman meeting a man, falling in love, and getting married?
Definitely not.
So everything's a mess.
But it also doesn't work for society. I mean, again, I think both are to blame because
Let's hear the men's fault. Let me hear the men's side.
I don't think it's the men's fault. I actually think it's both of their faults because you're kind of you're creating the society amongst each other. So at least in my day, I mean, it would never happen ever if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to come on this boat?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, there's no matter what the boat is, no matter where it is not possible because my values will never allow for any guy of any status to think that just because you're going to offer me so-and-so present or offer me so-and-so trip that I am going to go all the way there for you. No way in hell.
Yeah.
Like, this is my principles. And I think there's a lot of women, at least in this part of the world, that think like me. But also there's many and many and many that don't. It is such a common thing around in some groups of women to talk about them being invited by men and men buying them stuff. I don't have that with any of my girlfriends. None of my girls are the kinds of girls that will ever take a present from a guy for no reason.
Yep.
It would never happen.
Yep.
And we all have amazing husbands, great hardworking men that are trying their best and that are building and growing. And we build too, and we grow too, and we're happy. But then there's this dynamic of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it because the men are like, here you go, and the women feel empowered? They're like, yeah, so I mean, I'm empowered. I can take what they're offering and do what I want to do. Or is it the other way around?
Well, I'm going to answer that question.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it because I would argue that when society functioned the way it previously did, where there was a man and a woman and a husband and a wife and a family and a small home and children in it, I would argue that men didn't want to give up having a wife and having kids that they take care of and going to work, because most men still want that now. Women wanted to give up having a responsibility and a duty to men. Men still want that. Ask the average man, what do you want? I want a woman. I want some children. I want her to listen to me. I want her to be loyal. I don't want her to be a hoe. I don't want her to talk to anyone else. Men still want the same thing. Women have changed. Most women, of course, exceptions exist. Most women don't want to obey a man anymore. So women changed the game, and women said, we don't want to obey anymore. We're going to change the way society functions, because they thought it would be fun. And they thought that they would have this liberation and girl power and all of this garbage. So now we're in a situation where we described how the girls act. Let's describe how the men act, because there's two categories of men. The men who can get girls and the men who can't. Well, the men who can't get girls, they just sit online all day and have checked out of society. They play video games and trade crypto and smoke weed. Now, the system by and large has no problem with them, because although the population is collapsing, although there's a population collapse, they're just importing people from other parts of the country and destroying cultures in real time to keep the populations up. The reason they have no problem with the people who don't reproduce and have a wife and have kids and have family is because it's very difficult for a man to stand up and protect a society if he has no vested interest in the society. He can just leave or check out, right? If a society is collapsing all around him, but he has a wife and kids, he's going to want to stand up and protect his home and house. If he just sits in his bedroom playing video games and society is collapsing, he makes memes and thinks it's funny. So he has no problem with that. And then you have the men who can get laid. And the men who can get laid have worked very hard to put themselves in this position. They've worked very, very hard to finally achieve the status and the wealth and the capability to be attractive to women in a hyper-competitive dating market. They're spoiled for choice. All of the beautiful women in the world, to some degree, want a man which is semi-like them. And men who manage to get to this level of life naturally optimize their minds for competitiveness and for competence. So if you find a 23, 24-year-old man who managed to make millions and millions of dollars because he naturally optimizes for competence, then he's in good shape and he's very logical about things. And he's out there in the world and he can get all these different girls and he sees how all of these girls act and he sees very few of them have any values. What's he going to do besides just tear through a bunch of them? Which is what he's going to do. And then you're right. Then it is the man and the woman. And
but
it all
then
gets worse.
Like you said, it's not necessary that women are like that. So in a position where a man thinks this way and he has earned his right for a proper woman and he marries a woman or dates a woman or whatever, do you believe that it's well within his right to still have options?
Well,
don't be shy.
I'm not going to be shy.
Truly, like, I'm curious. I mean, everybody has.
I think, okay, so biologically, you have to, when I look at all subjects, you have to analyze them societally, you have to analyze them morally, you have to analyze them biologically, right? So if a man is married, should he sleep with other women? Well, morally, no. Biologically, men don't get pregnant. And men have been programmed to get as many women pregnant as possible.
Why as many women? Why not his wife?
Well, because women, unfortunately, are slow and they take a long time to grow babies. If you'd speed up, maybe we wouldn't have this problem.
But I think that's a personal choice of yours that you want that many children. So many men just want 3.
Of course. But I'm talking biologically. When I say biologically, I'm talking about us as animals, as organisms.
Yeah.
As animals, as organisms, men to procreate, for humans to exist, considering so many men died at war or hunting lions, men died at a much higher rate than women. There were more women than men. My job as a man is to get as many women pregnant as possible, biologically. Morally, that may be wrong, but biologically, it is my incentive to do that. The female incentive is actually different because when a woman is pregnant, she needs a man to stick by her or she's going to die. She needs protection provision. The female incentive, biologically, is to be loyal, to get one man, to know who the dad is so that he won't leave and to stick by him and for him to take care of me. Whereas the male has a different biological incentive. Get her pregnant, get her pregnant, get her pregnant, get her pregnant. That is why if a woman cheats on a man, it's so much worse than if a man cheats on a woman. Because if a woman cheats on a man, paternity in and of itself is at risk. A man can sit there. If a woman cheats on a man, there's an emotional connection required because she trusts this man at some level to protect or provide for her or take care of her. She respects him at some level, like he's strong. There's something there. Whereas a man could cheat with a woman, he doesn't care.
Okay, so you're saying it from a biological perspective, instinctual perspective. The way I see this argument is I don't cheat for respect for my husband.
Yep.
And I would expect no matter what the biology says, no matter what the instinct says,
understand,
my husband will say, I think I have something going on here that's more important. I don't want to hurt her. Irrespective of how he feels or how he functions as a man, within himself, he's like, but is it worth hurting her? Because her feelings will get hurt whether my biology pushes me to do this or not.
Of course.
Do I want to hurt her feelings? Do I want to do this to her? Not really. Let me try not to do it. It must be more tempting for him than it is for me. But you always talk about controlling your mind, discipline, working hard.
100%.
Why is the exception when it comes to this?
I'm not saying there is an exception.
And men can't control that, but you have to control every other difficult thing in your life.
Completely understand. So morally, I said no. Biologically, I'm explaining why men are always going to be more tempted to cheat than women. That's what I'm trying to explain. Okay. A woman isn't even tempted to cheat unless she's broken. The only kind of woman who's tempted to cheat is a woman who's been slept with too many men anyway and her mind is broken. Women, by and large, their natural inclination is to be loyal.
Correct.
And a man, his natural inclination is not to be loyal.
Correct.
And I'm only saying this before I answer your question so we understand that when we talk about loyalty and monogamy, we are talking about women saying, you should want to do what I naturally want to do. And a man doesn't naturally want to do it. It's like a woman, it's like a woman saying to a man, you should want to put on makeup. And we're like, well, no, I could, but I don't really want to.
Right.
Society might tell me I should, but I don't want to. You want to do this. So women and men are fighting a different battle here because women want to be loyal anyway. So we have the moral aspect, we have the biological aspect, and then we have the societal aspect. And this is the point I got to at the end. Societally, we were supposed to do exactly as you described. But women broke that contract. Women broke the societal contract when they decided to not listen to men anymore. What man in his right mind would get married in the West?
I feel like the sanctity of marriage is not respected by men or women nowadays. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Of course it's not. It's destroyed. So in the West, it doesn't even make logical sense for a man to get married. Why would he? I mean, you have to be an idiot. You have to be a simp or emotionally, like, I'm at the point now where I see a man in the West, and I'm not going to talk about the Arab world because it's different. There's a lot more tradition here. It's many years behind. But if I see a man in America getting married, I look at him like he's a simp. I'm like, you're an idiot. You're a dummy. For what? What are you marrying her for? Like, I mean, okay, if she's your high school sweetheart, cool. But no, she's not. She's a stripper. You met her in a club in Miami. So what are you doing? Why are you marrying her? This is all women's fault. Women did this. We were perfectly prepared with the societal setup until women said they didn't want to listen to us. They wanted to be sexually liberated. They wanted to run around and sleep with whoever they wanted. They didn't want to listen to their fathers. They didn't want to listen to their husbands. And they want to be out there doing whatever. And then they want to flip and reverse it because they don't want responsibility. The average woman on the street, if you ask her what she wants to do, she says, I want to go to school and I want to go to college and I want to have fun and I want to explore and I want to travel the world. And I don't want to listen to a man and I want to go all around the world. I want to go backpacking and I want to go to Dubai and I want to go on a boat. And then when that's all done, maybe when I'm 35, then I want to meet a nice man. Then I want to settle down. When men hear this, we're saying, okay, so you want to run around and sleep with everybody. You want to be a slut. And then you want some dude to pick up and pay the bill at the end. No, I don't want to do that. Any man who's optimized for competence refuses to do that. Now, if I, right now, in a hypothetical, because I don't talk about my personal life very much because I have enough enemies. If I went out there and met a virgin, 23-year-old religious woman who's never been with a man, who's going to obey everything I say and trust me to guide and lead her, would I marry her? Yeah, of course. It's not about being anti-marriage. What I am is anti the choice of wives that exist in the world today. If I'm going to go to Miami and meet a girl and be like, oh, she's my girlfriend now, and people say, so when you getting married, you've been together a while, I'm going to say fucking never, because I don't know what she was doing before I met her. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be that guy. And the reason I'm not going to be that guy is because I have been the guy who looks at a girl getting married thinking, bro, if you knew what I knew about her. I can't be that guy. I'm sorry, I can't. And most men optimized for competence can't. And there's not a single man out here. There's not a single man out here in the modern world of this misandrist, matriarchal world where everything about being a man is demonized. If you're remotely masculine, you're called every name under the sun, who's going to go out there, dedicate himself, work hard, be motivated, struggle to become rich and important and successful and finally make it out the matrix, the 0.001%, to then pick up some woman who'd been running around doing whatever she wants and just marry her and spoil her so that she can eventually take half his stuff. Men aren't doing that. And it's women's fault.
I see that. I mean, I'm Arab. I know what men feel here and I know what they think. And for a lot of men, when it's a woman, obviously not the girl that dated a couple of guys before she met somebody, but the one that's running around and chasing the money and chasing the boats, no man I know would want to marry a girl like that. Unfortunately, this is the reality of things. And I think in a lot of high-value women, in a sense, I hate using that word now, but high-value women, they also would not want to date the random guy that always has 5 hookers on his table. Well, I think it goes both ways.
That may be true. It may be true.
Trust me, I'm speaking for women that I know personally. If it's the kind of guy, it may not be as difficult. She may at some point, if he like calms down and shows he's changed, may say, you know what?
Can forget the past.
It's cool that he kind of like, had all these girls around him, maybe. But I think in general, it's a turnoff for a lot of women to be like, why does he have 50 hookers on his table? Like, I don't want to be seated on that table.
Yeah.
Take it from me. I have so many guy friends, a lot of guys I grew up with, and I've seen them with hookers on the table. I'd be like, when I was single, who's on the table? They'd tell me, I'm like, I'm not coming. There's no way I'm going to be sitting on a table like that. Some women feel this way.
Yep.
So I think it goes both ways.
No, I agree with you there. I think there's some women who wouldn't be happy to be on a table with a bunch of other women. That is true.
Not just women. I'm talking about like, not other women. Of course, I'm happy to sit with other women.
Yeah.
Paid women.
Paid hookers.
People that they call escorts, they could make them travel in to hang out with them. I would not sit on that table. It would never happen.
I understand it. I completely understand it. But it's this world we're now in. Women have tried very hard to make themselves playthings, most women. And then they also they complain or they want the world to change when men do nothing but play with them is what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is basically the bottom line of it. And we need to re-incentivize marriage. Mm-hmm. If you were to say, Andrew, fix society, I'd say, okay, well, I understand why marriage is a good basis for society. I understand why it's a good cornerstone. The reason I'm not subscribing to it now is because it's been perverted and destroyed. If you want to restore marriage, then you have to restore the incentives for marriage. Women have incentives for marriage. Men currently have no incentives. Masculine incentive needs to be restored. And the masculine incentive is for us to have some responsibility and accountability and power for those things. Mm-hmm. Why would I be responsible for a woman? And why am I accountable for all of her mistakes if I can't give her any kind of order or control or what to do? If I'm the captain of a boat, if the boat crashes, I'm the guy who gets in trouble. That's because the whole crew listens to me. If I'm the captain of the boat and I shout orders and the crew ignores me, then how can I be responsible for the boat crashing? So most men now are in relationships. If the woman crashes the car, he has to fix it. He's accountable. He's responsible to pay all the bills and take care of her and make sure that she's safe. If someone breaks into the home, he has to get up and risk his life against armed intruders to ensure she's alive. He has all the accountability and all the responsibility, but he can't tell her anything. Mm. So how can you not, are you the captain of a boat where everything is your fault? All of the work is yours, but you can't give a single order.
Thing is with you, I mean, you say things and everything you say is literally what any intelligent man that I have been following online, whether they're business coaches, whether they're soft guys that talk about like leading their families, in all realms, there's an agreement and a consensus to what you're saying. Men are most comfortable with themselves when they're leading, and women are most comfortable when their men are leading.
Yep.
But then when you say it or twist it into words like, you need to obey me, all of a sudden it hits a nerve with women, right? I think that's the issue. I don't think you're saying, anything wrong. I actually agree with almost every ideology that you have. I just think it's the way that it's said that triggers people. So this is exactly how media works. It's a headline. You say sentences with a strong headline that piss people off.
Yep.
And then they don't want to listen to what you mean by it. But every woman out there would say, I actually want a guy to make me feel like I don't need to drive the ship. I want him to drive the ship.
Yep.
I want to feel like I could count on him and lean on him.
Yep.
Granted, he gives her love and affection and emotion. He's there for her,
Of course.
not just pays for the bills of the house and does whatever he wants,
Of course.
right? So I think we're in agreement. And I'm pretty sure that when this gets out and people are triggered, they're going to have to come back to this episode to say, wait, let me see why he said that. That's the whole point of being curious, to listen to why and what does he mean by that? Because I don't think anything that you said is wrong, actually.
Well, thank you very much. And it's kind of interesting if you look at a history book. All these different cultures and different civilizations which never even met operated the same way. The man was the warrior and the protector and the provider, and the mother and the woman was a mother who was in charge of the home. And this was the synergy between the man and the woman, whether it was the Aztecs, the Chinese, the Mongolians, it doesn't matter where, the whole planet, men and women operated the same way.
Right.
And this is not an idea that could have been spread because this is cultures that never even met. The Aztecs never met the Chinese. These are very far away.
Yeah.
Why did things operate this way? Because it's the natural order of things. But now we have enough technology in many ways, not
To
just
show you options as well.
well, now we can mess with the natural order of anything. So now what we're doing is we're messing with the natural order of everything all of the time. And we're trying to psyop everybody at home into believing that destroying the natural order is going to make things better. But of course we don't know because it's untested, it's untried. What's actually funny about everything, I've always found this quite interesting, is that as we disrupt the natural order between men and women, it's actually hilarious how it's still men that have to enforce all the female ideals and all the female power anyway. It's still men who have to end up enforcing it. It's just men who have been cucked by the system to some degree. I got in an argument with somebody when the Taliban retook Afghanistan. And the Taliban, I was on Piers Morgan, and he sat me down and he said, what do you think about the Taliban preventing women from going to school? And I said, well, I don't live in Afghanistan. I'm not Afghanistani. I think the Taliban have a very difficult job to try and be the government of a war-torn country like Afghanistan. I'm sure that their decisions are not always perfect, but it's their government and they're a sovereign nation, and we believe in sovereign nations, don't we? So they made their own decision. And he said, well, don't you think that's disgusting? Don't you think that the girls should be allowed to go to school and we should do something about it? And I sat and said, why don't the women do something about it? Why do men have to go die? I thought, no, this is girl empowerment now. Girls going to school, girl power. Girls need education, girls. So if it's all girl power, why do I, as a Western man with nothing to do with Afghanistan, have to strap on a backpack and I have to go die? Turns out there is no girl power without men prepared to die for it. There's never been girl power without a man behind it. There's no such thing as girl empowerment. There's no such thing as a girl boss. There's no such thing as any of these things without a man at some point who's prepared to defend the girl. So it turns out, as we disrupt the natural order, and we're living in this matriarchal insanity of the West, and all this girl power garbage, behind it all is still a man at some point enforcing it, which just shows how false it all is. I think a girl boss is a woman who gives her man status, which is what we've talked about because she's not a whore and she hasn't been all over the place. A woman who gives her man status, inspires her man to take care of her, gives him the things that he can't find out in the world without her, has a happy family with him and a happy home. That's a girl boss to me. A girl boss is not someone running around saying, I hate men, I don't need men.
100%.
And all those women who say, I don't need men are liars, because you do need men. Because the second you get in trouble, you're going to call a man. Whether he's a police officer, a mechanic, or a fireman, he's a man. He just doesn't have sex with you, but he's still a dude.
100%.
So there is no girl power. It's all made up.
Yeah.
It's all made
You
up.
don't hear men going around saying men power. You know, it's just like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's like ridiculous, right?
course.
The only reason we do this is just, I feel like, when you have the insecurity of where you are in your life and you just want to make some noise. And I think this is a very much of a first world problem. A lot of people just screaming this at the top of their lungs just because there's no other real problems to deal with. And at the end of the day, I mean, where are the feminists when the transgenders wanted to go into the bathrooms of little girls, right?
Interesting, that, isn't it?
And then who's the one that got them out?
Well,
men.
Men, that's right. And who are they afraid of to molest women or molest children?
And
men.
and women's sports as well.
So who are these NGOs? Who are these charities? Who are these people who are trying to inspire and encourage feminism? If they don't care about women, what are they trying to do? They're trying to destroy society by and large, which goes back to the point I was making earlier about female voting. If you're a feminist, you don't listen to your husband's vote. You vote for yourself, and you vote different to your husband because you're independent and you're a feminist, and it doesn't matter what he thinks. Even though he's the one who has to die if we go to war, even though he's the one who goes to work all day and probably works more hours than you, even though he pays more taxes, even though he knows more about the brutal realities of violence and consequence. No, don't listen to your man. You made your own decisions, and your decision comes from Whoopi Goldberg because you saw her on the news, and the news said that Trump's bad, so let's vote against Trump. That's what's happened. These feminists don't give a shit about women. Mm-hmm. They are deliberately trying to destroy society. And if you want to find out who these people are, look up who started the feminist movement. I'm not going to say it on the podcast. I'll let everybody do their own research. But then you're going to learn what's really going on.
I need to look at that up a little bit.
Look it up. And you'll see that most of these issues, nearly every issue in the world, is a Trojan horse. Because it's so easy to wrap up a Trojan horse in such a nice issue. Feminism's perfect, right? We believe in women's rights. Mm-hmm. Andrew, do you believe in women's rights? Well, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to let your kid talk to a drag queen. Well, no, I don't believe in that part. Mm. They do it all the time. They do it with climate. Climate change. Do you believe in climate change? Well, I don't want the trees to die. Do you want all the fish dead? It's like, well, no. Okay, we're putting up your taxes. So, well, how the fuck is me paying more money going to help the fish? Fish don't need money. He ain't got a house. He ain't got rent. I got rent. Why the fuck am I paying the fish's rent? So they take a nice sounding idea and they inject the in the middle so you can't reject it. You can't say I want all the fish dead. I can't sit and say, no, I don't want women to have rights.
But that's the thing. I mean, I'm a woman and I know what rights I have and how much power I have. I know this and I protect it and I'll protect it for everybody. But I won't go and demand things that are unreasonable and that would only vilify our people coexisting with me. You're raising men, you're raising boys, you're marrying husbands.
That's right.
What are you doing? Demonizing them. What are you doing? This is the thing I don't agree with. It's not so much about the empowerment of women and giving them power. It's much more about why does your power have to take away from men's power?
Because a person is smart. A woman is smart. But women are stupid. And this is the bottom line of it all. And all of these movements are Trojan horses. Any movement that's not a Trojan horse doesn't gain traction. The climate change scam is deliberately designed to get everybody paying more taxes, afraid to drive a car, and locked in their house. If you say, I don't want to be locked in my house and I don't want to pay more taxes, all of a sudden you want the whales dead. This is what they do. Same with feminism. If you don't want women advocating for open borders, calling for wars they don't have to fight in, and dragging drag queens into children's schools, you don't believe women should have rights. So when you say, no, I don't like feminism because of all this it's delivering, they say, you think women should be raped on the street? No, clearly not. They Trojan horse all of these concepts on purpose. And they do it so it's very difficult to argue against them.
So this is an example, okay? You find a lot of people protecting, I don't know, a movement, the minority or whatever it is, because they don't want society to judge them and they want to seem like they're agreeable and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings with the softness that we have in society, right? So for example, gay men, a lot of gay men tend to be very loud and obnoxious about their sexual life, very detailed when they're sitting on a dinner table talking about what has been done to them because they, for whatever reason, maybe felt suppressed for so long and all of a sudden they're a bit freer and now they want to talk about it on a dinner table, in detail, graphically. I don't subscribe to that. I get very uncomfortable when that happens, but then you'll have 5 other girls giggling and laughing and high-fiving, thinking that it's cute. And I'm just like, I won't sit on a table with women that are talking about, I don't know, what they did last night, what toy they used. I would never
100%.
sit on a table with a woman that's saying that. Do I really need to laugh it off because he's gay? Just to make him feel like it's okay. And I'm not homophobic. I need to laugh it off because I just need to prove that I'm not homophobic. I have loads of gay friends. A lot of them very well respected. They're gay. They don't need to talk like that. They have nothing to prove. And I think this happens time and time again. It's happening with the transgenders in schools. It's happening with, LGBT, all of the whole shebang that's happening. It's all about making people feel like, I'm not racist, I'm not homophobic, I'm not this, I'm not that, so I'm going to be agreeable to everything that's happening.
Well, this is such an interesting point you just made because it ties back into something we mentioned earlier. And I said that when men make points, they make them obnoxiously. And I said the reason I make an obnoxious point is because I'm not afraid to fight the 20 people who disagree with me. So by and large, men are less agreeable because we have the capability to defend our ideas. Women don't. Women are, by and large, more agreeable because you cannot defend your idea. So this is just a biological trick of life. When a man met an opposing tribe, we got killed, or we killed them. That's how it went. So we didn't have to absorb that tribe's ideas. We never even had that option. We had to either fight, we had to fight to the death and either win or lose. Our ideas are ours, their ideas are theirs. Women have never had that predicament because if your man died, you then became the property of another tribe and you now have another language and another culture and you need to change your mind and agree with that one so you can get pregnant and survive. So women have learned and evolved over time to be more agreeable. Also with the fact that women cannot defend an idea. There's a very simple experiment you should look up. They get 10 people in a waiting room for an experiment, but the experiment's actually the waiting room. They think they're waiting for the experiment. And they say, before we go into the experiment, I'm going to hold up this triangle. Can everyone tell me what color it is? And the triangle is blue. And there's 10 people in the room. One of them is the subject. He goes last, and the other 9 are actors. And the first 9 people say green, 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 green. And when it gets to the last person,
he says green.
He says green.
He doesn't believe his own eyes anymore.
That's right, because he's afraid of upsetting the 9 other people in the room. Now, all of the women say green. Small men say green. Big men say blue. Why? Because the big man can beat the other 9 men. So physically, even though it's about a color and a triangle and your eyes, your physical capability directly reflects how you absorb and combat other people's opinions. And then women are afraid to say, by and large, I don't want to hear that, shut up, because they don't want a man to yell at them because it's intimidating. So they laugh and they giggle. And then the other girl laughs and giggles because the triangle's green and everybody goes along with it, which ties back into my point earlier about women being empowered deliberately so they can be manipulated, deliberately so they will not go against the grain because women agree with societal norms more than men. So if you tell women, we need to let the drag queens talk to the children or you're homophobic. This woman agrees. This woman agrees. The news agrees. TV agrees. Why wouldn't you agree with that? Most women will go, well, okay, I guess, because they're afraid. That is why they want women to have the vote. This is why they want women in charge of society. This is why they want to live in a matriarchy, because the people who are behind the matriarchy, who are men, understand that having a bunch of women in charge of everything make it easy to psyop them and control everybody.
Now you see the biggest powerhouses in the world controlled. Every head of state is controlled men. What would happen if they're women?
Well,
it's another situation.
Well, people say this. Like I've heard what feminists say, all men go to war all the time. If women were in charge of everything, women wouldn't go to war, which is probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I've never even seen, I live with 5 or 6 guys. All of us live together and we have a great time and we laugh. 5 women living together in a house, it's not going to be as harmonious as my house. That's a fact. Women argue just fine. Women argue all of the time. The actual real interesting thing about that is I remember when Kamala was running against Trump and I was talking to a feminist and she said that people don't want Kamala because she's a woman. And I said, yeah, true. And she said, why? You don't think a woman's smart enough? And I said, well, she's not. Kamala's an idiot. But primarily, actually, the fact that you've said people don't want her because she's a woman, because people are misogynistic, proves that she shouldn't be president. Because do you think that the male presidents of other nations are going to respect her? Do you think MBS is going to respect her? Do you think Putin is going to respect her? Do you think Xi is going to respect her? You saying that people aren't voting for her because she's a woman and men don't respect women is actually proof why she shouldn't be in charge in the first place, because no other masculine leader is going to respect her, especially her because she's a dummy. At least get a smart chick. You need Thatcher. Thatcher was more man than most men.
I think the time will come. This is how it should be. I think women because we always say there's the exception, and there's a reason why there's mostly men in these positions. It's because they want those positions,
of course,
and women don't want them.
Of course.
So it's not because we're not giving it to them. Most women do not want to be in that game of politics, of high power jobs. They want to raise families. They want to have a balanced life, and you cannot have a balanced life if you're in that situation. So
it's stressful.
It's stressful, and it's fine to say, I really don't want it. Like, it's fine. I'm happy to just have my business. I'm happy to do this, and I'm enjoying life and building and growing. But that is too demanding for me as a woman with everything I want to do in my life. And that's okay. And I think most of these feminist women that are fighting for these seats are people that don't want the seats in the first place.
They just want to try and prove a point.
They want to prove a point. Yeah. Exactly.
I want to ask a question to you because I want to hear what you say about it. Because I've talked about this female leader thing quite a lot. And I said I would never like to live in a country with a female leader. And the reason I said that is because I believe men are braver than women. By and large, men are braver. And if you're going to be the leader of a country, you need to stand up against shadow cabals, which are truly trying to influence things and influence the government. And you have to be very brave to stand up against them. And if you're not brave, you're going to end up doing as they want. They tried to kill Trump twice. They tried to shoot him twice. He didn't bend. He didn't break. He didn't quit. And he didn't do what they wanted. What would a woman have done if they shot at her?
So I think Trump is an exception.
Yeah, Trump's Trump. Of course.
Trump's Trump. Okay. I think if it was Biden, it would have been the same thing. I don't agree in the sense that I don't want a woman to lead. I'd be happy, but I would not pick a woman because she's a woman, because I'm a woman to lead.
Smart.
It will have to be for good reason.
Yep.
I don't care about your gender.
Yep.
If you're not qualified, I'm not voting for you, regardless of whether I'm a woman or not. So that's on one thing. On the other end of things, I think that you will have people speaking and building and creating the whole system with you. Even if she's sitting as a woman president, and we know this with the men presidents, they're sitting in that chair, but most of the time,
There's
hundreds of
people
are making decisions with you. So I don't care if that's a woman in the seat. I don't think that I'm in jeopardy or not safe because a woman is sitting there, because surely she has a team making decisions with her.
I agree.
That doesn't hurt. It's just a matter of pick wisely, not based on the gender, but based on who's qualified. And I think most people, the masses, are so biased that they pick based on religion, based on race, based on color, based on gender, and not based on qualifications.
Identity politics, and I completely agree with you. However, I agree with you. Everything you said is true. But I would argue that bravery is part of the qualification. And I would also argue if a woman stood up and got shot like Trump did, 99.9999% of women would have then, even if they won afterwards, when they had the meeting with the person who shot at them, did whatever that person wanted, which means they wouldn't have been a true leader. You need someone who's prepared to risk their life. Men, by and large, are prepared to die for an idea bigger than themselves more than women do.
So
I can name right now a bunch of examples of men prepared to die for an idea. And I've never tried to do this, and I'm going to try. Let's name a time women have been prepared to die for an idea, because that is the prerequisite of being a leader. I'm ready to die for this country, and for the good of this country, I will give up my life. That is a masculine decision. Women don't make decisions like that. Women go, well, I want the country to do well, but I'm not going to die. I mean, I'm only the leader. I don't want to get shot. Let's calm down. Sure, I'll sign that secret contract. Women are very self-preservationist. As they should be, because we described earlier with the tribes, women need to survive. Men want women to survive. Women want women to survive. Women are very selfish and very self-preservationist because it was good for humanity. But that does not make them a good leader. So the reason I would say bravery is so important is because if you're the leader of America like Trump, you're prepared to die for America. Men are prepared to go die in wars for their country. We're prepared to stay on the Titanic for honor so we can die on a boat and freeze to death so we're not known as a coward. We'll die for the idea of honor and dignity. You cannot think of a single idea. You cannot think of a single idea that a woman will sign to die for. No matter what it is, she'll go, yeah, no. And that's my point about why I don't want a woman to lead a country. Because I want a leader who's ready to die for the place. I'm ready to die for my ideas. I'm sacrificing. I've got the best life ever. Why am I sitting here saying all this shit? I have the best life ever. I can go get a yacht, get a bunch of hoes. We're in Dubai. And I can go and just party all day. I don't need to be sitting here on podcasts making people think. I don't need to be pissing off global governments. I don't need to be catching criminal cases. I don't need to be getting thrown in Romanian dungeons. Why am I doing this? Because I believe the ideas that I'm trying to purport, the ideas I'm trying to push, are more important than my individual life and liberty. I believe that. Women don't think that way. Some, not all, men think that way, but only exclusively men. Women will never die for anything, ever. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We need you alive. I was about to make a joke about cleaning.
Well, to cook for us.
Yeah, we need you alive. It's good for the human race. But we have to be very realistic about these things. But of course, they don't want us to be realists. The Matrix wants to call us those buzzwords so that we're afraid to see reality. They want me believing, that when I walk down the street, a woman can fight just as well as me. Just as well as I can. And we're not different at all. And if I say that, that's ridiculous. They'll say, what about this girl? And they'll name some powerlifting 6'8" woman from some Viking. And I'm going to say, well, exceptions don't disprove the rule.
Exactly.
And they're going to say, oh, yeah, but, you can't. It's clown world.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep this clown world active on purpose. And they're primarily doing it via feminism, climate change, and a lot of it, and I'm not trying to be misogynistic, a lot of it is female empowerment. Because if you want a clown world, you need an emotionally driven world. Mm-hmm. And that's why they want women in front of or in charge of everything all the time.
And they want to soften men.
And they want to soften men, because if you soften men, you just make another version of woman. Mm-hmm. Like I say right now, every single European leader is a woman. And they'll go, Macron's not a woman. Yeah, he is. Hello. There's nothing masculine about him. I've got a case in France already. Don't worry about it. There's nothing masculine about the guy, is there? And this is the thing that's one of the largest psyops, because the misandrists, the women who hate the men in the West, they'll go, we don't hate men. I like this guy. And then they'll show me a dude who acts like a chick. So you do hate men. You only like the men who act like women. You only like me as a man if I adopt female characteristics, shut up, act timid, act afraid, pretend that your women can do everything a man can do, and become a bitch. Then you like me. Well, that's not liking men. And then if I'm actually masculine, I'm called toxically masculine. Mm-hmm. How am I toxically masculine? I have no criminal record anywhere on the planet. They've been trying to lock me up for 5 years, haven't even managed to give me a conviction. Mm-hmm. Would I be toxically masculine if I carry you out of a burning building? Am I toxically masculine if I go die in a ditch to protect you? Am I toxically masculine if I stay on the Titanic because I'm too proud to survive? Mm-hmm. Am I toxically masculine now? Oh no, I'm only toxically masculine when I say that your idea is stupid. Mm-hmm. But it is stupid. And I'm not afraid to say it's stupid. And I don't care that you're a chick. Your idea is dumb.
I think a lot of people are actually toxically masculine when they want to be agreeable, just so that they're not. So they basically act like they agree with the feminists, with their ideologies, just so that people don't call them toxic masculines. And then in private, they really are. And I think a lot of people like you who are actually outspoken and say what they think, and even like me, I mean, I'm sure people are going to say, oh my God, Tracy's going against the feminists, and what, she doesn't care about women. But people that know me know it's the reason why I'm comfortable to say what I say is because I know exactly what I think about women.
Of course.
And how much I push women to do well, and how much I want men to be part of our society. I can't survive without men. I love the family unit. I love my husband to be leading our family. I mean, these are all very important qualities and virtues in our life. And for us to pretend that they don't exist or to push them away, to act like we could do everything on our own, is a huge issue for me.
It's a disingenuous. That's why society is collapsing.
Yeah, so I feel comfortable to say what's on my mind because I know exactly what I think.
And men need women too.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I say all these things and people come to the conclusion and they're like, oh, so, he thinks that we don't need women. That's not what I've said at any point.
Exactly.
That's not what I've said at any point.
Just takes it taken out of context always. You want coffee?
I would love coffee.
Here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is homemade coffee.
Okay.
You're going to like it.
Good.
So let's change gear. Early context. So for people who don't know who you are or how you grew up, what's an early context that you can take me to that will kind of make people understand who I'm sitting across from today? Yeah. Why are you the way you are?
From a young age, I was instilled with a sense of accountability and responsibility for my last name. From a young age, I was told that I was a Tate. Mm-hmm. And as a Tate, I had to perform. My father used to call himself the professional. The professional. And I had to be a professional in all things. Mm-hmm. So I always had a sense of duty, even when I was young, even when I was a child. I remember being a teenager. It was always consciously in my mind, my last name is Tate. So because my last name is Tate, I have to. And I think that this, was quite a common theme years ago. There was, Andrew, I was the son of my father, who was the greatest father on the planet.
Tell me a bit about him. What made him special?
My father was such a unique person, it's nearly impossible to describe him. He was extremely intelligent. He was obviously a world-level chess player. He was a linguist. He worked for the CIA, and then he got dishonorably discharged because he had a disagreement with his superior. But he became a chess master at the time, and he used to play chess at a professional level. And it was hard to be around him because he was so much smarter than me. And you could argue he had some personality disorders of types. So it was really weird growing up around him because we would be driving and he would say, that car behind us was behind us last week. And I'd say, how do you know? And then he'd read the number plate and said he would remember the number plate.
Wow.
And then he'd say, and also last time there was this number plate, this number plate, this number plate, but I can't see them now. And I'd say, well, does that matter? And he'd say, well, you don't even remember the number plates of all the cars behind you. So you're a fucking idiot. So what are you asking me for? I'm a man and I'm a professional. And I'm telling you that car was behind us again last week. I'm watching these things. You're not watching. You're dumb. And he wasn't saying it in a put me down way. He was just saying it in a way to make me very, I was sitting there going, well, yeah, you're right, Dad. I don't know. I can't remember all the number plates. I can't say if it was or wasn't behind us. So my father was a very interesting guy to be around, but there was an endless burden for performance. And it's so interesting to me because I've seen like psychiatrists and psychotherapists and all these other clowns, so I don't believe in psychiatry. I met a psychologist once. It was a hilarious story because I made him look stupid. But they say that if you put a burden of performance on a child, it's bad for them. But I had this massive burden of performance and it was fantastic for me. Mm-hmm. I loved it. I love knowing that I am Andrew Tate's son. I have to be as fantastic as my dad. He does things I don't think I can do, so I need to try and do something else. I can't be as smart as my dad. I don't have a photographic memory. I can't remember every number plate that's ever been behind me. I can't play chess at grandmaster level, so I'm going to go fight. I have to do something. I have to be good at something. So I had this massive burden of performance, and the burden of performance naturally leads and gives way to what we've been talking about earlier about accountability, self-accountability, self-reflection, because that's what performance is. Performance in all things is actually only self-reflection. People think that practice makes perfect, and they're wrong. Practice does not make perfect. Self-reflection makes perfect. The reason that
correcting yourself, you
have to identify your mistakes. If you don't identify your mistakes, you'll never get better, right? So a professional boxer will watch his fight back and see what he did wrong, see what he did right. If we do these podcasts, I'll watch it back and see all the time I stuttered, or all the times I didn't use a word I wanted to use, or all the times I could have been a little bit more funny, or I could have added in a misogynistic joke that I missed. So I'll have all of those things and I'll watch it. If I just do the podcast and don't watch it back, I won't get better.
Correct.
This is why some people are better at public speaking than others. There are people who cannot public speak like I can. They may be older than I am. They may be 55 years old. They've been speaking and practicing longer than me. How come they can't do it like I can? Because they don't self-reflect. So self-reflection is actually the key to performance. And there's no point in self-reflecting unless you take accountability for everything and blame yourself for everything. So my father was also very clear with me from the beginning that absolutely everything in life is my fault. Absolutely all of my problems are my own to fix. I don't get to run to anybody else. I don't get to ask anybody else for help. When I got in trouble with the boys at school and I was getting picked on and there was more of them than me, I had to fight and get my ass kicked. That was how the world worked back then. And that's how I was raised. And I have to thank him for giving me such a fantastic upbringing. And he prepared me for the world very well so that I could understand that it's unfair that I got jumped by 5 men, but it is my fault because I walked down the alleyway. And it is unfair that the Romanians lied about me, but it's my fault because I was living in Romania. I can blame myself for something always. And when you do those things, you can end up sitting in a cockroach-infested dungeon and still smile.
You have Hustle University now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about how you influence young men, how the Matrix doesn't like it, how mainstream media is trying to cancel you for it to a certain degree.
Yep.
But what are you teaching these men in Hustle University that's so worthwhile for you to take down all of your platforms?
Well, this is the thing that's interesting because it turns out big education is as dangerous as big pharma. When you say people at home, big pharma, if you talk against the vaccines or you talk against the medications, that big pharma will come after you. They'll accept that. But not many people understand that big education is the same because big education is one of the largest rackets on the planet. They have a monopoly on lending to young people. A young person can't get a loan for a car. They can't get a loan for a house. They can't get a loan for Bitcoin. They can't get a loan for a business. They can only get a loan to go and waste 4 years getting a degree that they'll probably never ever use. And it's not cheap. It's expensive.
100K or something.
That's right. It also suffers from double inflation because every year there's more degrees and every year it gets more expensive. So it inflates positively and negatively. It inflates on both sides of the spectrum. So it's a total waste of time.
And they create the scarcity of like the Ivy League universities and competition. So that makes you want to pay for it, you know?
That's right. And you're using your time, which is the most valuable thing you have on planet Earth. So when I launched my school, it was very simple. I was talking to somebody who said they were going to university. I said, university is a waste of time. They said, I know. I said, so why are you extending your adolescence? Why don't you do something worthwhile? And they said, there's nothing else to do. So I thought, fuck it, I'll make my own school. So that's when I launched Hustlers University, as it was originally called. Then it was changed name to The Real World for Escape the Matrix. And then we've evolved again. We're now university.com. I bought the domain, which really upset the Matrix, by the way.
That's a big domain.
Well,
it was expensive.
Yeah. When we were called the real world, things were okay. Once I bought university.com, I, within a week, had 4 tax investigations in 3 different countries. We were DDoS attacked massively. Our payment processor was removed. 2 of my email accounts were hacked, and Pegasus was put on my phone.
What?
When I bought university.com. So big education's real. And the reason big education is so real is because not only does it have a monopoly on lending to young people, but it's also the primary tool for psyoping the young people. How do they get all these young people believing in all these stupid ideas, all this LGBT open border garbage? How do they do it? They do it via the education system. So all the college protests and the college campuses, this is how they do these things. So taking people away from education isn't just damaging their money, it's damaging their ability to psyop the youth. And they really don't like that because schools raise the kids now. It's not like the days of old. Before, women fucked everything up. The woman would be at home with the kids and the man would be at work. So the woman would listen to the man and the woman would instill the man's ideas in the children. Then women ruined everything. Now both parents go to work. So the kids are raised by who? YouTube and school. So now you're a full-grown adult in America. You're a parent. And your children spend more time listening to the internet and listening to the school than they ever do listening to you, which means your kids end up believing things you don't even believe. They're not even your kids anymore. They're the government's kids. By me saying to the children of the world today, and when I say children, I mean anyone 15 all the way up to 50, to be honest.
Are they mainly boys?
Mainly men. I think we've got 16% women, but it's primarily men. And most of them are age 15 to 30, but we do have some older guys also. When I say to them, there's an alternative to mainstream education, it costs $50 a month and I'll teach you how to make money online. And we have 130,000 students. That becomes a massive problem for the Matrix by and large. So they try and attack my school all the time. And primarily, all we do is teach. We don't teach media or philosophy or anything subjective.
When you say we, you have instructors, you have
Yes,
coaches.
we have professors, one for each campus, and we teach how to make money.
So it's not online, you're saying campus.
No, it's online, but the campuses are built inside of the platform. It's online. Okay. So you'll join, you go to university.com, it's $50 a month, and we teach how to make money. There's a crypto campus, there's a stock campus, there's an e-commerce campus, there's an AI campus, and there's a professor for each one. There's about 40 hours of video, there's a chat room, and there's also 5 hours from the professor of live calls per day. And every single professor that I've selected are people who have already made millions of dollars in that field. So for $50 a month, there's even a fitness campus you can learn to get in shape. $50 a month, you can learn to get in shape, you can learn how to use AI, you can learn how to trade crypto, you can get rich, and you can skip the whole idea of university completely. That's the school. I didn't realize it was going to get me in as much trouble as it did because I didn't realize big education was as powerful as it was. But it turns out they are, which is another reason why the Matrix is trying to get rid of me and attach heinous allegations to my name, not just the fact that I tell these ideas and I inspire people to think for themselves and speak up for themselves. It's that I put a massive dent in their education scam because it is a scam. And young men are very disenfranchised in the world today. And the reason I say young men and not young women is because men have it hard, women have it confusing. Women still have a few ways out, primarily Instagram, but they have a few ways out. But the average young man, how is he ever going to have the life he dreams of? And a degree is not going to make him rich. A job's not going to make him rich. He can't start a mom and pop shop. Retail's done. Everything's sold on Amazon. All the money's monopolized. How is he going to ever find a way out? His choices are either gambling, literally gambling on roulette, gambling on meme coins, or my school, university.com. These are the only 3 things that exist on the planet that give hope to young men.
Unless they're specializing as a doctor or engineer or something, but any like business degree is not going to cut it.
Well, exactly. If you want to be a specialist profession, then you're doing it for passion, not for money. So then you can go to university to learn how to be an architect because you want to be an architect. That's fine. Perhaps you will make a lot of money as an architect if you become the best architect. That's true. Mm-hmm. But your decision isn't primarily derived from I want to get rich. Mm-hmm. Your decision is I want to be an architect. I was different when I was young. I wanted money. I didn't care if I had to dig holes. I didn't care if I had to fight like I ended up doing. I didn't care if I had to be an astronaut. How much are you paying me? Mm-hmm. And a lot of young men think the same, primarily driven because social media. They're looking at Instagram, looking at Monaco, looking at all the beautiful women, looking at the yachts, looking at the Lambos, looking at Dubai, looking at the glitz and glamour. They want money. They want it today. They don't have 5 years. They need it now. And that's why we created university.com. They sign up and they start making money the same day. And we're very, very successful. Like I said, we have 130,000 students and we have huge plans to do some big things across the rest of the year. I was actually looking at buying some billboards here in Dubai for 25 million dirham and just putting my face everywhere just to upset the matrix, you know, man. University.com. So we're going to see how it goes.
So that's what people are upset about. That's how your bad influence is on young men.
Well, this is what the mainstream media have done. So they've tried very hard to discourage people from going to the school. So the reason for that is because we just described they're scared of my threat on big education. And they've run a few stories, and I'm not going to lie, I find all of it hilarious. Because it's very hard to say. They say I scam people. How can you scam someone for $50 a month? I mean, that's less than the price of pizza. So if they even learn one thing throughout the entire month, forget the 40 hours of video, forget the 5 hours of free calls a day, forget the network.
I've paid $20,000 to business coaches to teach me something, and sometimes I learn nothing. And I'm like, okay, it's not a scam per se. I would have taken what I can and not take the rest. I mean, what's $50 a month? I totally agree with that.
Exactly. So there's no such thing as a scam at that price. So I haven't scammed anybody ever.
What about these crypto guys that are selling, that are giving trade ideas to these young kids and not necessarily scamming them, but like young kids are like emotionally impulsive when it comes to trading their money, and they're making bad decisions because they don't have control over their emotions. When they're seeing the markets go haywire, they're losing money. You can also call that a scam. Technically, it's not, but you just can't call anything a scam.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So they can't really call it a scam. So what they say is that the ideas I teach inside are dangerous. And the BBC actually ran an article saying that my school was homophobic. And I found it extremely funny because I do find all of these things funny. And I'll tell you the story. Maybe you'll find it funny. So someone went in the main chat room, and they said, I want to unsubscribe. This is too hard. And people started replying rainbows. And then I'm online in the school myself too. And I thought, this is funny. So I put a rainbow.
Oh my God, no way.
Anyway.
And that's why they said it's homophobic.
And then the BBC, that guy made a screenshot and they sent it to the BBC. And the BBC ran this huge article that I have this misogynistic super school, which is training children to hate gay people. And it's a scam and keeping them away from traditional university, which definitely works. And the degrees aren't a scam, but my school's a scam. And it's complete psyop garbage. Our school is very successful, and I don't really have to pitch it or sell it anymore because the world is almost selling it for me. There's very little alternative to what we offer. If you're serious about making money online, you sign up at university.com because it's one of the only options outside of gambling. The only other way to make money online is to take money and risk money, which is meme coins, crypto, etc. You can gamble your money or you can gamble your time. And if you don't have very, very much money, you should gamble your time instead. If you're already sitting on millions and you want to gamble your money to make more money, that's fine. Everyone does it. I do it. We all have stocks and shares and bonds and crypto. That's what you're doing. But if you don't have any money, then you need to gamble your time. And for $49 a month, you can make a time investment, and then you can get money from university.com.
I mean, I have went through multiple comments of people writing underneath some of the things that you teach in your courses. There are some clips pulled out on YouTube. I can't tell you how many young boys' messages I read only saying, you have got me out of my shit. I'm so lucky to be part of this university. I just was able to make so-and-so amount of money. I've read multiple little guys, I don't know how old they are, all saying amazing things. Like they are really doing really well for themselves because of that. So it's really nice to see that you have that impact.
It is, but it's kind of sad that we live in an empire of lies where the people they say are the good guys are the bad guys, and the people they say are the bad guys are the good guys. You think about it. Let's actually analyze this. I'm inspiring men to not be depressed, to believe in themselves, to go to the gym, to stick up for what they believe in, to say what they think. And then I'm offering them a platform that allows them to make money and dedicate themselves and be constantly motivated to be in fantastic physical condition and make money and be financially free. I should be a hero. Why am I treated so badly? Well, when men are financially free, you cannot throw them in corporate and use a HR department to make them agree that that dude in a wig is a chick. So they don't want men to be financially free. They want you to be a tax slave. If you're financially free, you leave the West and move to Dubai. Who doesn't? They don't want that. They want you stuck in London corporate. So helping young men make money is a problem. Why don't they want me to make men physically strong? Because if you make men physically strong, they say the triangle is blue. They don't want that. You have to say the triangle is green. So that's a problem. Taking money away from big education, which is a racket and a scam. That's a problem. Making men say what they think and think what they say goes against all of the programming they're trying to inflict on everybody because they want you to just turn your brain off and accept the slave mind program. So again, it's a problem. So by trying to do the right thing, I've ended up public enemy number one because we live in a world which is upside down. We're looking through the wrong end of the telescope. And this is the world we live in. So I am flattered that you said you saw all these positive comments. I've seen hundreds of thousands of positive comments, but the BBC will not say a single nice word about my school. In fact, they're just going to wait for once a year for there to be an opportunity, like the Rainbows, to run double-page spreads and put me all over the news that I'm a terrible, evil person who is behind everything bad that has ever happened anywhere ever. And this is actually a life lesson to everybody who's watching this. If there's a person that everybody is saying is a bad guy, like Trump, he's often the good guy. And if there's a person everyone is saying is a great person, like Obama, he's often the bad guy. You need to just, if you're not smart enough to do the research, then what you should do is just invert it. If you're not smart enough to do the research and work it all out and do the details, here's a simple formula. Whoever they say is good is bad, and whoever they say is bad is good. That's literally how upside down it is.
People are waking up now. I mean, especially with what has happened with Israel and Palestine, with how much the media twists the truth and how much it enraged so many people. If that is not a lesson for you to say, maybe not everything the media says is right, why is that applicable when it suits you and your narrative and something you want to defend, but it can't suit something that, you know, maybe it's not part of your circle, maybe it's not part of what you're trying to defend. But I think the same thing as you. I mean, Kanye West, I think it's a very good example. They want to take him down for everything he's talking about. Justin Bieber now, let me see what they're putting out on him, making it seem like he's going he's going through a crisis and he's losing his wife, and they're making his wife look like she's just like all over him and trying to like keep their marriage together when it's not working out. All of these things just to hurt him because he's standing up and speaking. And
That's right. So and the media, another trick they do, and this is something else you have to be very, very careful of. A lot of people don't do this often enough. It's not only what they say, it's how they say it. And this is so important. And we can talk about Israel, Gaza quickly because you mentioned it. It's a perfect example. When Hamas and the Palestinians defend themselves, it's a brutal massacre. When Israel murders innocent civilians, it's a tactical strike. Those differences in languages, brutal massacre, tactical strike. Now, we know that a tactical strike is a collapsed building on top of children. We know that there is missing limbs and dead women, children, and men. We know how brutal it is because we can now see the video. If X wasn't a free platform, we wouldn't even see the videos. So if you just read tactical strike, you imagine, they picked the one bad guy out of the group and it was tactical and they sniped him. But it's not that, is it? It's collapsing buildings on top of innocent civilians. But when Hamas defend themselves, even if they're killing other soldiers, which is the basic prerequisite of war, it's a brutal massacre. So when you're listening to what the media say, it's not only what they're saying, because sometimes they're unfortunately forced to tell some version of the truth. Then what they do is they say it in a particular way, and they lie by omission. And by omitting certain parts of the story, they can tell the truth while also lying.
Correct.
This is very, very common. They do this a lot. In fact, they usually do it when they attack a man's reputation. So I can talk about this from personal experience. What they'll do if they want to attack a man's reputation is they would call 1,000 women who know him. And 999 would say he's a great guy. And then they'd find the one who says he's bad.
Give her a microphone.
And they'd only mention her. They don't mention the 999 who say he's good. Even if those 999 say the other one's a liar, they don't mention them. They omit it. They only show that one and they say, we're telling the truth. This is what she thinks. This is what she says. But they cut off so much of the story that they're not telling the truth. And this is what the media does with absolutely everything. Because the primary objective of the media is not to inform you. Think about this if you're watching this at home. Think about this. Why do the people in charge of the world want you to know anything? Who are you? Get over yourself for a second. They don't give a shit if you live or die. You could die in a car crash right now. You think they give a about you? They don't want you to know anything. They want you to believe things. And they want you to believe the things that suit their agenda. They don't want to educate you ever. They want to propagandize you. It's kind of amazing how arrogant people are when they go, oh, well, I read this, I saw this, I'm informed. No one's trying to inform you, friend. You're not important enough. You don't get presidential briefings. Nobody gives a shit about you. You're another nobody cockroach in traffic. So no one wants to inform you about anything because you have no power or capability. Nobody cares about you. They want you to believe certain things so that you'll continue to waste your life energy. They want you to believe certain things so you'll continue paying government taxes, even though they hate you. They want you to continue sitting at home miserable and depressed, believing your life is worth living long enough for you to build the roads and build the bridges and then end up jumping off of one of them. That's all they want to do. So it's kind of amazing.
And not complain where your tax dollars are going.
Absolutely. This is the thing. So it's kind of amazing that people who watch the mainstream news or interact with it at all are arrogant enough to believe that the BBC are building this whole big studio and hiring these professional presenters and getting these very nice cameras and putting together these video presentations because they really want to inform this nobody about how the world works. Like, get the over yourself. Though. Yeah, get over yourself, people. They don't care about you knowing anything. If it was up to them, if they could click and make you believe what you need to believe, there would be no news. There'd be no news at all. In countries where the people are already doing what the government wants them to do, there is no news. They just get rid of the news. Well, we don't need the news. We need to tell anyone about the news. No one needs to know what's going on in the world because they're already doing what we want.
Right.
And the less people are doing what they want, the more news there needs to be. Work it out. It's a setup.
So you were on Piers Morgan on October 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And before then, I mean, that's when you really spoke out about Israel-Palestine. And before then, you had a lot of conservatives on your side only because that you kind of spoke the same language, you had the same ideologies. I know that you don't identify as a conservative per se, but they shared a lot of your point of view. So no one really attacked you. No one really cared about the things and the things that you were saying. But all of a sudden, October 9 came. You talked about Israel, Palestine. You defended Palestine. And then all of a sudden you had your issue in Florida where everybody attacked you. Everybody came after you. Tell me a little bit about the selective outrage and the double standards.
Yeah, there's a interesting conspiracy theory that there's a particular group of people who control the world, and they control the media, and they control the money, and they control the banking. And if you speak against their interests, you pay the price. It's an interesting conspiracy
I've never
theory.
heard that.
Yeah, very strange.
What? First time.
Yeah, they were actually on my side. And then, as you said, on October 9th, which was very soon after October 7th, called what Israel was doing a disgusting genocide. And I said it before anyone else did. And I said it against my legal counsel's advice. And I said it because I thought it was the right thing to say. And at that time, nobody else had really understood quickly enough that the beheaded baby story was a lie and that Israel were being disproportionate in their response. And as soon as I did that, all of these other influencers on the conservative side, plus a whole bunch of bots, all of this started to just whip up a storm trying to damage my reputation and damage my name. And primarily they were just saying that I was, the usual things, anti-Semitic, and I was a bad person. And then they tried to attack me because of my history of owning a webcam studio, and they said that I'm bad. I obviously made it clear that OnlyFans donate millions of dollars a year to AIPAC, which AIPAC, of course, are the Israel lobby, which are heavily involved in American politics. And OnlyFans, who's owned by a Jewish man, donates millions of dollars to this day. But they don't care about that. They care about supposedly something I did 15, 16 years ago for some reason. Anyway, very strange coincidence, all of this. But the Overton window has shifted now, I believe, and I think everybody understands what's going on. And there's been some recent developments also between the relationship of America and Israel in the last 3 to 4 days, which are very interesting. So we're going to have to see how things play out. But I said something earlier about who was behind feminism.
Yeah.
Some interesting reading for this whole conspiracy theory. It's not true. It's not true. It's just a conspiracy.
I'm not going to talk on something I don't know. I'm really going to research that because I'm really curious to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Unless you want to share now, but I could look into it later. So I have a question for you. What makes a man more enslaved? All right. The guy that's living paycheck to paycheck in the rat race, or someone that has money and power, but stay silent on big topics that matter. Maybe it's more specific in justice.
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. What makes a man more enslaved? Well, I mean, physically, your physical body is going to be more enslaved if you're working paycheck to paycheck. But if you can say whatever you think, then your soul is going to feel more free. However, your ability to speak freely is directly correlated to your insignificance. So it's not as brave to do when you're insignificant.
Right.
There's a lot of people who say the same things I say, but they don't have the platform I have. So it doesn't take the same degree of bravery because...
And it hurts them more.
Well,
they can lose their job, their one job that pays them that paycheck, that feeds their children.
It's a really interesting question. I'm trying to think who's truly free, even amongst the elites.
Exactly.
There's not many. And especially amongst the famous. The famous really have a big problem.
Hollywood now, with what's going on with Hollywood, right?
Well, everyone is a gatekeeper. I'm one of the only people who managed to get globally famous and renowned without having a gatekeeper. If you're on a basketball team, your team gatekeeps you. If you say anything you're not supposed to say, you're off the team. If you're an actress and you say something you're not supposed to say, the producers won't hire you anymore.
And the record labels.
YouTube. There's always someone who will shut you down if you start speaking in a way you're not supposed to speak. And the way they avoid this from happening is the same thing they tried to do to me. I got offered $55 million to sign a contract. And that contract was a sponsorship contract. But to avoid brand damage to this brand, I had to shut up about certain issues and change my opinions on certain things. And I declined the money. And soon after that, I was arrested. So what they try and do is give you a gatekeeper if you get famous without one. But primarily, people only get famous because of their gatekeeper. All of these famous people aren't even famous. This is what's really amazing. Taylor Swift or Rihanna or whoever, and I'm not insulting them. I'm saying that they could make any piece of shit trash song. All the radios are going to play it. All the TV stations are going to play it. They're going to pump it everywhere. They're going to put it to the front of the Spotify recommended list. They're going to make it something it isn't because that's why they're famous in the first place. Their gatekeepers make them famous. If they lose their gatekeeper, even if they could now become a free person, they don't have enough agency or enough about them to actually do it. I was one of the few people who had no gatekeeper and everybody trying to suppress me who was managing to organically gain endless traction. They banned me. They shadow banned me. They deleted my hashtags. They tried everything. They couldn't get rid of me. That caused a huge problem for them. Everyone else who ever spoke out of line, as soon as their gatekeeper just deletes them, they just vanish from the internet. They're gone.
Yeah.
So who's even truly free now? Very few people. I wouldn't be saying, if I would have signed that contract I signed and we were still doing this podcast, I wouldn't have said 95% of the things I've said. I wouldn't be allowed to say them, but I would be
also
rich.
you wouldn't have agency anymore. You can't really make your decisions. So
that's right.
You know what I mean? You would maybe take a back seat because you're depending on someone to do the work for you. And then a year goes down the line, you're no longer putting in the work yourself, and that person doesn't want to represent you anymore. And you're like, shit, what do I do now?
Well, you sell your soul.
Yeah.
You sell your soul, you lose your edge, you shut up, you sell your soul, and then you end up needing your gatekeeper. So my gatekeeper, let's imagine I would have signed that contract. The gatekeeper would have prevented me saying certain things, but that would have also made my content far less engaging. Right. So I would have been far less famous. So I now need them to promote me, to keep me famous, which is going to give them even more control and more power over me till I eventually start trying to convince people at home to chop their balls off and wear a wig, which is how it all works. Because most famous people don't want to lose being famous and go back to getting a fucking job. Many of them aren't even that talented. You see this all the time. You'll see an actor in a Netflix series. I'm not even going to say his name because I don't want to give the guy credit. There was a Netflix series, and I watched it, and the guy played a gangster. And it was a good series. And I watched him, and then by coincidence, I was like, what else is he in? And I looked him up, and 6 months after the end of the series, he's dressing as a woman in GQ. And I'm like, so basically, he was an actor. He did a series. He wanted more acting jobs. He doesn't want to go work in Starbucks. Everyone recognizes him. It's going to be very embarrassing to go back to Starbucks. He has no money, he needs acting jobs, and his gatekeeper said it would be good for his career if he dresses up as a chick in GQ magazine, and he sold out. And then guess what? He's in another series. That's how it works. You have to sell your soul. They have to have control and power over you. They cannot allow you to be influential if they don't control you. That's what Epstein's Island was about. That's what my criminal cases are about. That's what all of this is about, because I am massively influential and they don't control me, and it bothers them to their core. This podcast will be watched by government agencies. They will watch this. They will analyze with a psychiatrist Me, you, how I talk, my body language, the things I say. They will take certain excerpts of it and give it to prosecutors. They will try and drum up charges, all of it, because they're afraid that I influence people in a way that their mainstream media garbage cannot. The entire world is a battle for influence. And if you're influential, they need to get you under somebody. Kanye, he had somebody. I'll let you look this up. I won't say the guy's name. Kanye had a personal trainer. You know all about this. Yeah. That's right. A gatekeeper. Funny. He was the same personal trainer to Britney, I believe. Funny how they all go crazy. These people. Isn't this weird?
Mental illnesses, all these crazy celebrities.
Isn't this strange? Isn't this strange? The ones who don't say what they're supposed to say end up with the same personal trainer and end up having mental illness. Isn't this odd? The world is so much darker than people believe because the Matrix is trying to never-endingly push and control a certain narrative so that the huge percentages, the huge swaths of the population who are getting fucked over don't revolt. Think about it. We're in Dubai. We're going to go home in nice cars. We can go on a boat this week. We have big houses. We have nice food. We have a maid. We have a cleaner. The average person's life, especially in the West, sucks. And they have to prevent a peasant's revolt. And they do that by making sure there are no influences other than their own. That is very important. It's not about black versus white. It's not even about conservative versus liberal. What it's actually about, and it's always been about, is rich versus poor. That's what it's really about. And they need the poor people believing that they're going to get rich one day if they just shut up and work their ass off for 80 long years. And the truth is, they never, ever are. And they can't let people wake up to that reality.
Yeah. They sell it in the US that America is the land of the free. And it's the land where you can get rich, right? This is the American dream, but doesn't exist anymore.
You get rich in Dubai, you don't get rich in America.
Exactly.
And as for free, I think America has more laws than any other country on earth. It also has a larger percentage of its population incarcerated than any other country on earth. And America is a police state. And I'm in Dubai. And you could argue that Dubai has very stringent laws and could be called a police state, but Dubai offers me safety. And Dubai also offers me massive opportunity. America's a police state where I have no safety and no opportunity. So I have to be afraid of the government and the criminals, and I'm broke. Yeah. So what am I there for? Absolutely. Well, you're there because of patriotism. America. Don't go over to the Middle East. They're all ragheads. That's bad. Yeah. Bomb them. Baghdad. Shock and awe. Bullshit. You know that Matrix bullshit. Weapons of mass destruction. That is all a fucking lie.
You know that there's a huge department in the Pentagon that pays for Hollywood movies so that they could push the narrative that they want to push about the Middle East, who's a bad guy, hide what the CIA is actually doing in states that don't belong to them.
That's right.
So,
well, this is, I mean, we can go deeper down the rabbit hole. This is why America as a whole loves this idea of democracy so much and pushes this idea of democracy all the time.
Because they make you feel like you're involved in the decision making.
And also they get to choose all the leaders of all the other countries. That's why. So America says, we need a democratic world. We're going to go to war to ensure that there's never any sovereign leaders of any nation. We need democracies. Why does America even hate Russia? Let's talk about this. Russia was our ally in World War II. We've never had a halt war since. Nothing's happened. Russia's defending itself against Ukraine now. They're actually on the defense. They're not the aggressor. NATO's the aggressor. It's a different story. Why do we have such a problem with Russia? Well, it's simply because Russia doesn't have a democratic system. They have one leader and we can't get rid of him. America loves democracies because when they create all these democracies all around the world, they can then make sure their guy wins. It's very simple. How do they make sure their guy wins?
Yeah, and they can make someone the villain when they call him the dictator.
Of course, he's a dictator.
Yeah.
Oh, a dictator. It's a dictator here. Exactly. Ooh, but it's a beautiful country. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, that's right. So they want democracy so they can make sure their guy wins. Why do they want their guy to win? So that they can become an American vassal state. America doesn't have allies. America has bitches who work for America, so they can dump an American military base right in the middle of the country, and it just becomes a American vassal state. What happens if their guy doesn't win? Well, then there's an organic protest. And then another election must be held. And of course, all the elections are fair. I mean, of course they're fair. You don't think Zimbabwe has fair elections? Of course they do. Naturally. They must do. Of course they have fair elections. I mean, we know the American election's never been rigged. So I'm sure all the African elections are never rigged. Like, it's a setup. It's all a lie. And all of these things tie into one another. All of these things tie into one another. It's really interesting. Why do they push feminism so heavily? Why do they convince women, and they have campaigns specifically about this, to vote against their husbands? Here's the true red pill of it. It's not because women voting against their husbands will vote in the way the Matrix wants, because they can't psyop enough women to defy their husbands to affect the vote. It's to convince the population at home that they can psyop enough women so that when they rig the election, they can blame it on something else other than the rig. When Trump lost in 2020, everyone knew it was rigged. And I said, this is a rigged election. And they go, yeah, but women, immigrants. No, they want you to think it's women and immigrants. No immigrant is voting, and women aren't voting against their husbands at 80 million votes. That is a setup and a psyop that they pushed so they have a scapegoat for an election rig. Because they rig it. So all of this democracy, this is actually the true betrayal of living in the West. That you're living in a brutally inefficient system. The reason Dubai has done such fantastic things in such a short period of time is because there's a dictator. Do that. Okay. In a democracy, everything takes forever. You have to talk about it, discuss it. There's a committee, there's a proposal, there's a bill, there's a law, there's a vote. But the idea is that, okay, we're going to be an inefficient system where nothing gets done. And we just sit and slowly rot and can't outcompete the Middle East and China. But it's worth it because we get to choose our leaders. Once you realize you don't get to even choose your leader, you realize how badly you've been truly betrayed. You don't get to choose your leader. So what's happening in Western modern democracies right now? Well, it's a mass extraction event. They're being raped for finance and resource. And it's all coming over here. Everybody in London is trying to get rich to move to Dubai. Living in London now is an insult I use. He's still in London.
Yeah.
He's a brokey. Like, it sucks. Well, everyone's moved. Everyone's moved. So this is the state of the Western world. And this is the state of the existence of the people who are forced to live there because they're not geographically free. So how do they keep all of these people under control? Well, with the matrix, with mass influence, with mass eunuch. They want to make everybody a eunuch. With mass, there's a word I'm looking for. What's the word? Sedation.
Yeah.
With mass sedation, with mass distraction.
I was going to say mass psychosis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that despite all of this mess, Taylor Swift can still fill a stadium.
It's insane.
Like, what are these people doing? It's almost, you get to the point where it's like, do they deserve? To be philosophical, what did I say earlier? We all get what we deserve in this life?
Yeah.
Do these people deserve destruction now? When I sit and I go to London and I'm like, guys, this place is dangerous. You can't wear a watch. There's drugs everywhere. It's a shithole. Nothing's been fixed. It's fucked. What's going on? And they say, yeah, football. I'm like, bro, do you just deserve to just lose? Because I deserve to win, so I won. I created a platform, university.com, that allows anyone who wants to win to go win. If you want to win in your home right now and you have $49, I guarantee you can win within a month. Anybody can win. If you want to win, you can win. You have everything you deserve in life. But if we apply that from the person to the people, if we apply that from the micro to the macro to a nation level, our Western governments and just exerting the justice on the Western populations because they deserve what's coming to them. And if they do deserve what's coming to them, it's because of a distinct lack of masculinity and resistance against oppression. Because what is coming to a Western government? Name a single metric inside of the Western world which is improving. Crime's worse, drugs are worse, cost of living's up, taxes are up, everything's going down the drain. And there's not enough men around to stand up and say, not my country. My granddad died for this country. No, my dad was in the army. This is my nation. You're not doing it. There's not enough men because masculinity is under attack.
Right.
That's why I'm a threat to them, because I tell men to stand up and say what they fucking think. Because the things I'm saying, most men think, but they think it for 5 minutes and then they go back to the football.
Yeah, or they just don't want to say it out loud because now they're shamed if they say something like this out loud.
Triangle's green.
Yeah. So you push men to be physically strong and mentally sharp.
Yep.
Do you think emotional intelligence is important?
You know, it's a good question, but I'm going to counter with a question because emotional intelligence.
First of all, how do you define emotional intelligence?
Well, that's what I was going to do, because emotional intelligence is something often women say to men when we don't do what they want. You know, they're like, buy me a car. And you're like, no. And they're like, well, you're so smart, but you're not emotionally intelligent.
I really wish I had this. I should ask more of my husband. I should be like, I want a car now. Like, I don't do that. I'm like,
when he says this,
what women are you dating? Dude?
Yeah, but I'm being hyperbolic. I'm exaggerating for comedic effect. But the point is that women say emotional intelligence when they're trying to manipulate men into doing what they want.
But I think women need to be emotionally intelligent as well.
Well, I think
it's not just a man thing. So
yeah.
what do you think about emotional intelligence per se for men? And then we could maybe jump to women. So is it necessary to be emotionally intelligent?
It is, because you need to be likable to some degree. And also, for anybody to trust you to lead, they need to have faith in your capability to interact with other people and with them and to not be abusive. So I would argue that emotional intelligence is very important, yes. I think, like all ideas that we discussed earlier, it's been psyoped and Trojan horsed into women talk about emotional intelligence often when they're trying to get a man to do whatever they want. But I do believe that emotional intelligence is very important. However, apathy can be weaponized. Like, apathy can be a dangerous thing. So as men, sometimes we come across as very cold or uninterested, or we come across as people who do not understand a woman's emotions. Even though we do understand them, we do have the ability to understand it. We just see a picture perhaps bigger than they do sometimes. So we can say, look, I know you're upset and I know you're mad at me because of this and this, and I know this really matters to you, but that actually doesn't matter, and this is what we're going to do, and you have to get over it. This is how we are, because we're naturally problem solvers.
Right.
But I think if you're emotionally intelligent, you're smart enough to understand why she feels the way she does, and you can try and make her feel better about it. I'd say that.
But do you think it gives you ammunition, not just with women, but also if you're speaking in public, if you want people to be swayed to listen to you, even with the media? Do you think emotional intelligence would have gotten you much more out of your message than what you currently are facing?
Yeah. I try and shock people out of apathy. So I'm not trying to say things in a way that cater for everybody's feelings. I'm not trying to. Perhaps I could, and maybe I would have gotten further. But I'm deliberately not trying to.
If your real message is you want to be able to shape the minds of these young kids or these young men, you want people to wake up to the matrix, this is the message.
Correct.
And I believe that. Do you think people would listen more? I mean, I don't think anybody, at least I didn't know you had Hustle University. I think many people that know you, and they're a lot, half of them probably don't know that you have something like Hustle University.
Yeah.
And it would be really good for them to know. I want people to know this. I want people to know what your real message is. And aside from the gimmick and the noise, I find most of it funny. I mean, because I have a sense of humor. So I just don't, and even if I don't agree with a thing or two you say, I'm just like, whatever, that's his opinion. I mean, like I would with any lunch or dinner that I have and I'm disagreeing with somebody. I think people take offense very quickly. They're way too emotional, way too sensitive unnecessarily. You don't agree, you don't agree. But do you want your message to be loud and clear, or do you just want to poke at people just to piss them off because they're being annoying?
No.
Because I get both versions, but which one are you standing by?
You know, that's a really good question. And if I have to psychoanalyze myself in real time, because I've never been asked this question before, so I want to tell you the truth. So I'm trying to work it out myself, because am I a philanthropist? No. Am I trying to help people because I really care about people? I'm being honest.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
But what I am doing is I see these evil people doing something evil, and I want to call them out on it. And then, yes, I do want to raise an army to fight them. I have to be very honest.
No,
I'm
love
not
that.
trying to make men rich because I am such a nice guy.
I'm a coach and I want to be
that I
train the
want
next
you
generation.
to be rich. No, I'm saying, look at these evil scumbags. Look at the lies they're telling. Look what they're doing. Help me fight them. That's what I'm trying to do. So when you ask me, am I trying to make everybody hear my message? Yes, I am, because I'm trying to raise an army. But am I also trying to poke my enemy and piss them off? 100% yes. So it's kind of a combination between the two. A lot of this isn't philanthropic. The reason my school is so efficient, the reason people make so much money, is because I know if you teach young men how to make their own money and be physically strong, it's hard to psyop them, which makes them a soldier on my team against the other team. I've just found bad guys breaking into a house. I'm walking down the street and I see these evil people breaking into a house to kidnap a woman and her children. And I'm just saying to guys, come help me. I'm not trying to turn them into heroes. I'm saying, let's just stop this. Let's stop this. They'll become heroes by extension. But my motivation isn't making them a hero. My motivation is stopping that. Am I making any sense?
100%.
That's what I'm trying to do. So, yeah, do I like to antagonize my enemy? Yes. And I antagonize them on purpose, because the more I antagonize them, the more powerful they make me. I'll give the secret away. Hello, MI6, because I know they're watching this. Hello, guys. Hello, BBC. You're going to take parts of this and you're going to chop it up and you're going to say, I said bad things, which is why I said them in the way I said them, so that you would do that. Because you can buy advertising, but you can't buy the BBC. But I get the BBC. Then everyone will watch this. And then people will say, you know what he says is actually pretty smart. And then I become more powerful than ever before. But these jackasses can't help themselves. So they are my brand. My brand is the hate. That is my brand. You need hot and cold air to make a tornado. You have to have the pro and the con, the light and the dark, the yin and the yang. My brand relies on hate. If my haters disappear, it becomes a lot harder for me. So I have to sit here and say certain key things that will be taken out of context so I can be attacked with them, because I don't care about going to jail that much. The triangle is blue, I'm afraid, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I'm not afraid of the guys you're going to send with guns to drag me to jail. And when you drag me in and out of that police van, I'll smile like in every other picture. And I don't care, because I want to have a life story which is interesting. And a lot of men want an interesting life story. They want an exceptional life story. But the biggest mistake these people make is they think an exceptional life is only the exceptional good, not realizing that exceptional means deviation from the norm, whether it's good or bad. I enjoyed a Romanian prison cell just as much as I enjoy a Bugatti and a private jet, because it is unusual. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It's different from the normal. I don't want a normal life. This is all I'm looking for. So I don't really care if it goes right or it goes wrong. Maybe I'm a suicide soldier.
Maybe.
Never
know.
But I don't really give a shit, because I enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. It's not about winning and losing. It's about fighting. They're different things.
Are you afraid of anything?
Yes. I am afraid of things, but it wouldn't stop me doing anything. Like on an ideal day, I don't get in the ocean. I don't like the ocean.
Oh, wow.
I don't like
it. Fish? Like flounder?
I just think the ocean is just, it's a big psyop. There's something weird going on.
Unpredictable.
Yeah, I can't see.
There's no control there. Huh?
There's no control. My life's extreme enough. Like, I have a hard enough time. If I get in and out of the car to and from a restaurant without getting killed, I have a sigh of relief. Mm-hmm. Like, I have an extreme life. I don't need to do extreme things. I don't need to jump out of planes. I don't need to go in the ocean. There's fish in there, And they're saying that whales are mammals. No, they're not. They're fish. And there's just a whole bunch of lies around the ocean. Have you not heard? Like
jellyfish things.
Jellyfish.
Yeah,
they killed Steve Irwin.
No, man.
I just think they're lying about the ocean.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think they're lying about the ocean.
Not climate change. It's the ocean itself.
If it was up to me, we'd get to the bottom of this. I was saying that we should basically just nuke all the dolphins the other day. And someone said we can't do that because dolphins are mammals.
True.
No, but they're not.
They are.
They live in the ocean and they have fins. There must be fish. There's no mammal. That's not a mammal. That's a fish. And I said, why? But here's the psyop. Why are the fish we're supposed to like, whales and dolphins, called mammals, but the other fish are just fish? It's a setup.
It's not a setup.
It's a setup. They're all fish. A dolphin has never paid my rent. There's too many fish in there. I don't like any of them. I don't trust any of them. I don't go in the ocean.
What's something you wish people would ask you? Just ask me this one question so I can explain. Not justify yourself, but why don't you ask me this instead of asking me 100 other things?
I wish people would ask me. Actually, I'm not sure. You ask me very good questions that I have to genuinely think about. I'm not sure what I would like people to ask me, because I'm really not in the business of explaining myself too much.
Yeah.
I feel like my image is actually a fantastic test for me to get a read on others. It's actually great for me. I would hate to explain myself. If I walk in a room and I can see who likes me and dislikes me instantly, that's perfect. Mm-hmm. I like that. It's like a instant test of who's a moron and who isn't. So I kind of like my image. I would hate for someone who I don't want to like to convince me to like them, because somehow they didn't give me an honest perception of how I'm viewed. If this makes sense. When I walk into a room and there's 10 people and 2 of them go, "Did you see what they said about him in the news?" I'm like, good, okay, don't talk to them. They're losers. So I don't know what I'd like people to ask me. I'm really not in the position to explain myself.
Is there that thing that you'd be like, I wish you would just ask this question and then you would understand
I'm going to be honest with you, because I like to consider us friends now. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with questions. Like, outside of podcasts.
Wow, we just spent 2.5 hours of me asking.
No, but this is a podcast. This is professional work. But I'm going to say something from my personal life. I can't answer questions. I find them insulting. So outside of a podcast, even in like a romantic relationship, she's like, "Oh, how you been? Where you been?" Why are you asking me where I've been?
None of your business.
What the fuck's it got to do with you? How was your day? Why are you asking about my day? What's it got to do with you? Where are you going? When are you home? What? I don't like being asked stuff because I find it insulting for some reason. When I sat with the cops and they were asking me questions, I'm like, who are you to question me?
The cops.
Like, we're the police. And I was like, fuck you. I don't have to answer anything. I don't have to tell you where I've been and who I've slept with and what I do. Fuck you. No comment. I don't answer your question. I don't like questions.
You know, I swear to God, this is weirdly familiar, not as aggressive, but my husband hates it if I say, what are you doing Saturday? He's like, why are you asking?
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
Just tell me what's up. You don't need to ask me something first. Or if I tell him, we're going to do this. No, wait, no, we're not. Yeah. Why don't you ask me? I'm like, okay, what the do you want, right?
Well, I agree with him. I agree with him. I hate being asked questions in general. If someone were to come up to me and say, hey, can I ask you? No, you can't ask me. You can't ask me my name. You can't ask me where I've been. Maybe I'm just paranoid. I don't want to answer anybody's questions about anything ever. You know,
I would be paranoid if I were
There's women I've been with for years who never knew my job. They just knew I had money. Because they asked, what do you even do? I'm not telling you. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't like questions. For some reason, I find them insulting. I also find phone calls very insulting.
I hate phone calls too.
No, but someone who thinks they can demand my time instantly because they want to talk to me. No, you have to message me and ask and beg. Please, can we speak? You can't just say, I want to talk to him now, so his life is now mine, and call my phone. If anyone calls me unprompted, I block them.
Yeah.
They're blocked. Even if I've known them for years, I'll block them and they have to contact Tristan. Why am I blocked? You called it. You can't call my phone. I don't like it. It's insulting.
If you had to leave one legacy out there that has nothing to do with your fame and your money and what you do,
yeah,
you want to be known for something.
Yeah.
What is it?
I want to be known for making the brave choice. I think that's an important thing. I want to be known for saying exactly what I mean and for being honest. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, you know who I am. You know what you get with me. I'm transparent to a degree. And I think being known for being honest and being brave is enough. I think those are the two qualities that most men need to try very hard to elude and exhibit into the world. I think that when I imagine the kind of men who don't do those things, I imagine snaky men. You know, it's actually funny because, you know, I have these accusations of rape and garbage, all these lies, and they do this to attach heinous accusations to my name so people will ignore my ideas. They don't want to say, Andrew Tate, have you heard what he said? They want to say, Andrew Tate, did you see what they accused him of? Because they're afraid of my ideas. How could I be a rapist? Let's analyze this. I'm the most honest, upfront man in the world. Hello, you are beautiful. Oh, thanks. I want to take you to dinner. Okay, we'll go for dinner. That's not a rapist. A rapist is, hi, I just want to be your friend because I'm not brave and I'm not honest. The two things I just talked about. I just want to be your friend. And yeah, you can hang out with me and you're safe with me. Let's just drink some alcohol. We're just having some fun. Ooh, let's drink. Yeah, you can stay at mine if you want. That's a fucking rapist. Not me. I'm straight to the point. I'm like, come to my house. You know, like I'm very clear about my life. So if you imagine a man who is not honest and not transparent and not truthful, those are actually the snaky ones, the male feminists, the little weaklings. Those are the ones you got to be afraid of. You haven't got to be afraid of a man who's very up to the point. You're beautiful. I'm not interested. Very nice to meet you. Goodbye. Because I ain't got time to waste and neither of you. So goodbye. So just relating that to my story, but being known as brave and being known as honest, I think those two things alone are very important to the masculine imperative. And when I imagine men who are dangerous, they are men who are not those things. A rapist is not brave enough to talk to a girl and have her like him for who he is. And he's not honest enough to be clear about his intentions with her. I think all these little weak men are dangerous. Weak men are dangerous, not strong men. Imagine a pedo. Is he a good-looking, big, strong, rich man? No. It's some fat.
Sometimes.
Well, you got Epstein, but that was a psyop. That was a psyop.
Yeah.
But in general, it's some fat nobody sitting in his room.
Yeah.
Like it's men without options that are dangerous. It's not men with options that are dangerous. It's men without capabilities that are dangerous, not men with capabilities. Weak men are dangerous. Who's a school shooter? Is it the jock or is it the nerd?
True.
It's the nerd. Weak men are dangerous. So it's also so funny they talk about toxic masculinity all the time, but it's actually the strong men which are the most safe for society. The most heinous actions committed by men are committed by men who have no emotional control because they're weak. That's school shooter, no emotional control. Kills his wife, no emotional control. Rapist, no emotional control. All of this is for men who can't control themselves, not strong men. Strong men have self-control.
Where are you at on the allegations? If you don't want to go into detail, I'd understand. But I know, I mean, read through them. I saw everybody that spoke out.
Yep.
I even saw the people that were part of the allegations, the women that supposedly were the victims, saying, please don't put me in this. I am not a victim.
Yep.
I've watched all of it. So I'm quite shocked that this is happening to you.
Yep.
And I'm sorry. I think that sucks. But it does happen to people of your status.
Yep.
What's happening? What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, so sexual allegations are very common. The Matrix uses them. Trump had E. Jean Carroll. Russell Brand just got indicted. Julian Assange spent 12 years in Belmarsh because supposedly he raped a girl in Sweden. And then he managed to fix his deal with the U.S. government to stop reporting military secrets. And he was released from Belmarsh. What happened to that girl he raped? Oh, she never existed. Funny that. But anybody who's a good guy gets hit with these sexual assault allegations. But the Romanians have now admitted they made it up. They said, we made it up, so you can go now. Sorry. The British Foreign Office told us to make it up because you're a big problem on the internet. So for everyone who's ever sitting, watching it going, oh my God, Andrew's abusive, let me make this very simple. The UK Foreign Office wrote to the Romanians and said, we have a guy on the internet who's a problem, who's living in your country. Who is he and why is he there? And the Romanians said, well, what do you want us to do about it? He's not Romanian. We don't care. He's British. And the Brits said, fix it. And they said, well, sure. So they accused me of shit and threw me in jail and locked me in my house. And then something changed in the global political landscape. Everyone can work out what it is. One question was asked, show us evidence. And they said, we ain't got any evidence. The Brits told us to do it. And the Romanians, who were guns for hire, said, the Brits told us to do it. And the other guys were like, well, then stop. I'm like, okay, because it was all made up. So I went to jail for no reason. I had my house seized and taken from me for no reason. My house was raided 5 times for no reason. My dog was hospitalized by armed police for no reason. All of my cars were taken off me for no reason. My mother had a heart attack and I couldn't visit her for no reason. I didn't see 3 of my children for 3 years for no reason. I was sitting in a cockroach-infested cell for no reason. I was locked in my house for years for no reason. Travel banned for no reason. No reason. And they've now admitted they made it all up. And there's no sorry. There's no oopsie. It was, welcome to the world. You piss people off. Things happen. We'll let you go now. Don't worry about it.
Bad reputation is considered as a crime. They can punish you just as easily.
Well, the process is the punishment. Mm-hmm. So now they've attached these bullshit allegations to my name. And the primary objective of these allegations is to prevent any opposing power structures to the globalist matrix using my name for influence. They don't want me standing next to Nigel Farage helping him win the UK. And Nigel Farage likes me and knows me and wants to use me and knows I'm useful, but he can't because I'm accused. That's what their job is. Their job is to try and take my power away and diminish my power. Of course, this won't work for long. Eventually, people are going to say, we don't care what he's accused of. He's never been convicted. And the Romanians let him go. So who gives a shit? And then we're going to work together. So there's a lot coming. A lot of amazing things are going to come, and hopefully we can do our very best to save the world. But in terms of my current allegations, they've admitted they made them all up, but Romania can flip on a dime. Anyone who's watched the recent Romanian elections knows that, so who knows what's going to happen. They might go back to saying they're real again and lock me back in a jail cell. Who knows? England now has some British case against me. They're saying in 2008, I assaulted somebody. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. It doesn't even say. On the arrest warrant, it says 2008 assault. That's it. No time, no place, no person, no when, no where. Imagine I told you 15 years ago you assaulted someone. Defend yourself.
Like, did I?
No, well, you're like, who, where, when, what?
But you know what
you don't even have a clue what they're talking about.
What's problematic is that I think everybody made mistakes. Everybody isn't really proud of certain things that they've made in the past. This is the point of humanity, of how we are as human beings. We learn, we evolve, we do better. And in situations like yours, they will take the one thing that you're ashamed of, the one thing that you wish you would have done better. I'm sure you weren't very proud of your webcam business now in hindsight, but it is part of your journey. It was part of your growth, and it was the best that you did back then. But unfortunately, that's going to keep coming after you. And
it's so true. And it's amazing you say that, because all of the people, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and everyone's sitting at home going, oh my God, look what he did, as if they're perfect humans. All of you people sniffed coke in high school, or stole from somebody you shouldn't have stole from, or robbed from the till of a store. Everyone's human, right? Everyone's done things. I grew up in a council estate, Luton, the worst town in England, around drug dealers. My friends were murdered. I was stabbed myself. I grew up in the worst possible area, and I found a way to get out of the ghetto, not by selling drugs, not by raiding houses. I helped women optimize HTML profiles because girls can't code, and it got them more money on their webcam profiles, and I got a cut of it. You can say I'm the worst man in the world for that if you want, but you're a dumbass. As the streets run with blood, because of drug deals, because of murder. I didn't do any of that. What did I do? I was literally a programmer. But because it's me, because of media spin, like you're saying, they take it, they affect it, they try their very best. And the people who are going to sit there and pretend they're squeaky clean and never done anything wrong in their lives are not only disingenuous, but even if they are telling the truth, well, then you don't know very much about life. Because I've seen the ups and downs of life. I've seen the dark of life and the light of life. I grew up very disadvantaged in some ways and very advantaged in other ways. And it is that yin and yang that make me interesting enough for you to sit and watch this podcast. So I'm not going to sit here and apologize for anything I've done because I did the best I could at the time. And we all do things 20 years later. We thought I could have handled that better. But I managed to get out of the ghetto. I managed to escape. I sold the business and I was done with it. And 6 years later, after I'd completed the business, when I started talking about politics, then it became a problem. Very interesting.
You always say that the best version of a man is a man who struggles with good parents.
Yep.
Do you believe that?
I think the best version of a man is a man who's born with no money and good parents, which has me very concerned about my sons because I've got a lot of money. It's a big problem.
It's a problem.
Got a lot of money.
How many kids? Do you want to say?
I never answer that question.
You don't have to.
I never answer it. But I'll die with 50.
What?
I'll die with 50 children.
Oh, like an army.
I want an army, yeah, of course. My security team in 20 years will be my sons. There'll be 5 Andrew Tates. That'll be my security team.
I really want to see that.
No, I'm telling you, 100% guaranteed that's what it's going to be. And I'll die with 50 children because that's my new current objective to life now. It's just to have as many kids as possible. I think children are beautiful, and I think there's no better use of time.
You think you can be a good father with that many kids?
Easy. It's just organization. You know,
I think, look, when you have money and you have the facility
of course,
to facilitate things, it's different. I mean, you see the poorest countries in the world having 10 kids, so
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure that you can manage.
Absolutely. You just have to have a regimen.
But you don't believe in a intact household with the entire family sitting around the table.
Well, I do believe in that. Actually,
do you not want that for yourself?
Well, no, actually, I'm more of a family man than people who believe in the nuclear marriage and the traditional relationship because I still live with my brother, my cousin. I'm like a clansman. I like clans.
So like the tribe raises.
I'm a tribe guy. That's how I like it. It's like me.
Kids are raised by a tribe.
That's
not
right.
By
That's right. So there's me, my cousin, my brother, all of our 3 women. All the kids, the women are with the kids. Us 3 guys are smoking cigars somewhere else. You know, the women and the kids are over there. We see them a bit. Like, I'm a tribe. I live with 30, 40 people. I like the idea of family, but not just 2 people. I like the huge families. That's actually how I approach it. So I'm not against living with a woman. I'm just against living with only a woman. I also want to live with my brother and my cousin and the people I work with. And I like living with lots and lots of people. If I live with only a woman, for some reason, I feel like I lose my competitive edge. Whereas if I live with guys as well, one day they'll wake up and do 500 push-ups and I'll get mad and I'll do 600 and then he'll do 700 and then we'll do push-ups all day. That doesn't happen when you're home with your wife. You end up eating cake and watching TV.
That's true, actually.
So that's it.
Yeah. Actually, you know, it's different to what I would want, but it is common. I mean, you see this amongst a lot of the shuyukh here in the Middle East. I mean, they like to live in big groups. They like to have, you know, many kids, and I mean, it's just a preference, I guess. So I don't condemn.
So I'm in the right part of the world.
Yeah,
there we go. I get a nice big house.
Yeah,
we get all the wives, have all the kids,
and you also are a faithful man.
Yeah,
you have faith in God.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have faith in God if you believe.
That's probably the one thing you fear, I would say, aside from fish.
Well, I did say earlier, fish. The ocean, not the fish. I just don't like the fish.
Okay.
No. To be honest, I said earlier about taking dirty money and how the universe is all balanced in the end. And I think that shows a healthy respect for God. And that in the end, everything works out, everything balances out. And I like to believe that every single thing that happens to us is a test from God. I think that you become closer to God during struggle. I think he's watching during struggle.
Did you get closer to God in your struggle?
Yeah, I think that it was simply a test he gave me to make sure I deserved what I had. You don't get to become a symbol of resistance and a symbol of masculinity and then never get tested and never resist. Imagine I was saying all the things I was saying and I just got to continue living in mansions and flying around in private jets and having a great time. Well, how would that even work? Let's even imagine that scenario. It even seems counterintuitive to imagine. It doesn't work that way. If you're a symbol of resistance, then people need to see you resist. So God gave me a platform.
Lead by example.
That's right. God gave me a platform and said, let's see if you deserve your platform. Or if you're going to fuck it up like Peterson did, because Peterson started taking drugs, became a drug addict as soon as his life got hard. So he put me in jail and he put me through all this Romanian crap. When I was in there was one time I didn't sleep for 4 days. They tried to medicate me. They tried to give me drugs, sleeping pills. and I wouldn't take them. They told me I had to take them. So I had to pretend to swallow them and spit them out again. So they tried to medicate me like they medicated Peterson. So all these things have been tried on me, and I resisted all of it. I said no to the 55 million sponsorship contract, said no to their medicine. I said no to everything. So God gave me a test. And when I was going through it, even though it was difficult, I knew I was being tested, which gave me a huge source of strength because I knew he was watching. I knew I got a chance to prove myself. And that is why I now get to drive around in one of my 4 Koenigsegg Jescos. And because I deserve everything I have. And I earned it and I deserve it. And there's no such thing as light without dark. And if anyone out there is watching this and believes that they're going to escape the matrix or escape their struggles or escape their pain and one day end up rich and have no struggles and no problems and everything's going to be perfect and life's going to be sunshine and rainbows, well, it doesn't work that way. There's always a problem. It's never going to end. War is forever. So you may as well get good at fighting. And that's what I've done.
The show is called What They Don't Tell Us. If there's one thing, one message that they don't tell us that you know of, please share. What don't they tell us?
The primary objective is not for you to ever be happy or content. The primary objective is for you to make them happy and them content. And when you understand that lens, to view all events, to view all of the education, all of the things we're taught, all of the things we're told to do, when you understand that the rules are made for the benefit of the people who make the rules, everything makes sense.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Thank you.